Let's turn that off.
Good evening, Grafton. Welcome to the May 10th, 2022 meeting of the Grafton School Committee. I'm Amy Marr. I'm your chair. And we're going to open the meeting tonight at 7 o'clock p.m. and move directly to public comment. Is there any public comment in the crowd? We have a big crowd this evening, and it's very toasty in here. We just cracked a window, so hopefully that'll help. Seeing no public comment, we're going to move on to general business. I think we're going to take some items out of order here. We're going to have the DECA students come up and go first. How's that? There's more of you, and your presentation's already up on the screen, so come on up.
Which item is that on the agenda? So I can check it
Yeah,
off?
you know, I'm looking at that, and I'm just going to,
I would say it's general business.
yeah, sure. general
You can
business.
add it as chair. You can add it to the agenda.
We'll call it public comment, except then it would be susceptible to the rules of public comment. That was my mistake. I clearly did not realize that was not there.
It's okay.
These are comfy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we don't mess around.
No kidding, man.
No.
That's the
I'm a
nicest thing we
Staples
have.
guy, and I don't know of this chair. I'm gonna have to see what I can do
I
about
think it
getting
is Staples.
All right, so when you folks are talking, just make sure you speak loud and project into the microphone. I'm going to let Mr. Maxwell start and introduce yourself and your friends here.
Sure. This is gonna be a little
I know
weird.
it's
Maybe
a little
I
odd.
should- Yeah.
Go,
I'll do
swap.
like this. No, you're all right. I'll talk over you. I am Jeff Maxwell. I am the DECA advisor and a business teacher at Grafton High School. This is my 4th year of doing both. Please don't ask me where the time has gone. I know I started there when Mike did. And Mike is one of our co-presidents. We've also got Wilson Fettig, one of our, he's helps out with finance, vice president of finance. He and Aiden Walker were partners for a project that I'll let them tell you a little bit more about. And we've also got Bree Dwyer, who was running career development, and she will be a co-president as well next year.
Nice.
DECA is a business club. It's open to all students, but it's not one of these clubs that you can just smile and do nothing and, you know, tell colleges, hey, I was in it. No, we work. So, but I'll let them tell you a little bit more about it.
Great.
Who's up? Mike, you want to go?
Like Mr. Maxwell just said, my name is Mike Hanna. I am one of the co-presidents of Grafton DECA. I started in the club when I was a freshman. I did a hospitality and tourism role play, which essentially is you go in front of a judge, they give you a scenario, and you kind of say what you would do in that given scenario. I think mine, if I can remember correctly, was what is this hotel and would you invest in this hotel and why? And really you have 10 minutes to make things up and act like you know a little thing. As a sophomore, I ran a community giving project with a team. We did a Toys for Tots basketball tournament. Didn't go too well, unfortunately. As a junior, I did a sales project. We did a raffle fundraiser. We made $6,000. And as a senior, we did the same thing. And that's pretty much my DECA career right there, as a short summary.
I'm Wilson Fettig. This is my 2nd year in DECA now. I'm currently the VP of Finance, so we handle all the financial planning for the club and where the money goes, how we deposit the money. For my first year, I participated in a role play too. Mine was more focused on business administration, and I did a couple role plays because we passed the districts round. But I remember one of them being all about economic systems and how to describe them and how to talk about them just in a public forum. It was pretty fun, though. I didn't do great at states, but this year, Aiden and I, we did a project that was on sales, and we started our own little local business where we sold baked goods all around town. We were called the Babka Boys because our specialty item was babka bread. I hope someone in here has heard of us. And we actually placed at states, so we could have gone to ICDC. We did pretty well.
Yes. As Wilson said, my name is Aiden Walker. This is my 2nd year as a member of DECA, and although I don't hold a board position such as a vice president of a category or a presidency position, I have been an active part in this club for both years. My freshman year, I started out with a role play in sports marketing, and it was about like advertising for a high school basketball program. And it was virtual, and I we hadn't done a lot of practice, so I had to learn how to adapt really quickly to a certain scenario. And I felt that I've grown in my ability to think quickly on my feet in my 2 years here. And then this year, as previously mentioned, we competed together in a role play, or in a written project, and we were very successful with that.
Let's scooch in here. Hi, everybody. My name is Bree Dwyer. I'm currently the VP of Career Development. Next year, I will be one of the co-presidents. Kind of as everyone here started, my freshman year, I also did a role play. I was in the buying and merchandising category. That category, we kind of just took different products or items, and we were part of the marketing team and how to develop a good advertising committee and how to sell those products. My sophomore year, I realized that I wanted to be a little bit more involved within the club, so I ran for a leadership spot and I became the JVP of Career Development. I also did a role play that year, but because of COVID, it was a little bit different. The Zoom call, the online testing, everything was a little crazy. After that, this year, I became the VP of Career Development. I also did a written, and I was in the entrepreneurship innovative business plan. So I created my own product. I created an app, and basically it was an allergy-friendly app where it would kind of take whatever allergies you have and find good recipes for you, while kind of taking out all the nitty-gritty stuff that it's kind of harder to do. I also placed well. I qualified for ICDCs, which is internationals. Unfortunately, we didn't get to go, but it was very exciting, and it was a really good experience.
So let me translate a little bit for you. There are two categories that students can compete in, because we compete against a litany of other schools. And everybody starts doing a role play, which is a what if. And they've got the gamut of business categories that you could hit. There's finance, there's human resources, sports and entertainment, marketing, on and on and on. And on the other end of it, those students who have been in DECA for a while have the option to do a written project instead. This is a little more complicated, and by little I mean a lot. We're talking 20 to 30 page paper, 15-minute presentation in front of judges, usually with a PowerPoint or some kind of poster board or something, where you've got to stand and deliver everything that you've been researching for the previous, 6 months? Is that about right? Mm-hmm. And if you do well in these competitions, you kind of move on. So in January, we had our district-wide competition in Worcester. We did well. Those students moved into Boston. We did that in March, I believe. Yeah, March. And then from there, we qualified for the international competition that was held in April. And I'm very proud of what these students have accomplished. In addition to that, we bring in people from the outside world to talk to the club about how businesses operate. In my humble opinion, it's one of the best parts of my job, is where I get to talk about the real world to high school students. Now, I'm not naive, though. The information is only as good as they want it to be. You know how it is. You can sit there and have, I have the secret of life right here, and if they don't want to know, they don't want to know.
Wait, what is it?
It's in my classroom.
Oh, all right. I'll be there tomorrow.
So, because of that, the way that they can take this information with people who are leaders in the community. You worked with David Meridian over the summer.
I have this
He's
summer
coming
and next summer, yeah.
Yeah, and this coming? That's awesome. He's come in to talk with us a few times. We've had a couple local entrepreneurs come in, and it's one of these opportunities that you don't get out of a normal club. And I'm proud that I'm able to kind of advise and guide and move forward. Who's got questions? Because I know somebody said school store.
Graciela, I saw your hand first.
I just wanted to know how many students are in DECA club.
Like 75.
Yeah, it's about 75. I've grown it by 120% since I started. And we are, I'm hoping to have close to 90 next year. We'll see though. I got a lot of seniors leaving.
The two questions. First, why were you not able to attend the international competition?
There was an event that transpired in November which disqualified us from participating at the international competition
shoot.
this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just making sure it wasn't funds or
Nope,
something
nope,
like
had,
that.
nope, it had
Yeah.
nothing to do with funds.
Okay. My second question was around the table. What's the most important thing that you've learned from participating in DECA?
You want to start? I start.
Okay, sure. I'll
Pass
start.
that off.
Thanks. I think the most important thing I've probably learned is how to grow as a leader and to work with my peers, especially like it requires great communication and you learn different skills that you wouldn't have had before, especially with, as we said before, like it's a real world situation that you're taken upon and you need to figure out that solution. And that's like preparing us for careers in life.
Like I previously mentioned before, for me, it's having the ability to think quickly on your feet. I know that sometimes I'm thrown into situations that I'm not always comfortable with, and DECA has helped me grow like into a better thinker.
I'd say for me, it's probably mostly just about the friendship, learning how to work with people, learning how to communicate with people. I remember when we went to States, I was freaking out because except for him, I knew almost nobody there. I didn't even know that I knew other people from other schools who were there. But I kind of figured out slowly how to, talk with people, and I was surprised, and I'm very thankful for how all the Grafton students were so supportive, even though we had no idea how we done. We were all sitting there at the table. I remember we were laughing so hard, and I don't know what about, but it was really funny being able to have that sort of friendship and community.
I would say it's definitely being content in failing. Nothing in DECA ever goes right. That's kind of the premise of the club. When I was a freshman, my hospitality and tourism role play, I placed bottom 25 in the district, so not even the state. And then I tried to run for a board spot and obviously lost because I had nothing to show for it. As a sophomore, like I said, my Toys for Tots project didn't go well. I ran for a board spot. Luckily, I won that time. And then as a junior, I ran our big fundraiser project. I don't know why I was allowed to, considering I failed every other time. And we raised $6,000, and I placed top 10 in the state. And that fall, I ran for chapter president, and I won. But if I had been knocked down and not gotten back up, there was no way that ever would have happened. And DECA is one of those things that has taught me that.
Laura?
I was gonna say, I think that's the best thing I may have ever heard sitting up here, that is content in failing. And what I just had a quick comment, sorry, Jen, is that all of you are so well-spoken and so comfortable, and that's why I love having DECA come here, because it's just another place to demonstrate your presentation skills and speaking. And Mr. Maxwell, you don't have a lifetime of education. You came from the business world, right? And then you became a teacher. And I think that's super important sometimes to bring that in, that real world experience. So some of us up here, we work in corporate, we work in outside of education, and there's a world out there, and it's very different from the education world. And all of this experience is just, you can just tell. And I'm just amazed at all of you and proud of you and your peers. And just, it's such a great club. So thank you for coming, and great work.
Thank you.
Jen?
So just say thank you, Mr. Maxwell, for everything you're doing for growing every school that I've taught at. DECA has always been such a great club. I just had a stronghold in each school I've been. It's just a good presence. So to see it grow and see that people really enjoy it and want to join, listening to all of you, like what Laura said, you're all just very well spoken. You would do well in life. It's preparing you for the real world. And in my teaching, I say through failures when you will learn, and that's exactly I think what you're getting out of it. And that's when you learn. That's when the learning begins, is through the failure. So sometimes you have to go through those to get there. But congrats to everything you've been doing, and continue to do the great work.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
If there's anybody watching who wants to join DECA next year, how can they do that?
We have a drive in September.
Okay.
And whether it's new students in any way, shape, or form, if they want in, yeah, there's a process, because it's, again, as these four will attest, it's it's not a club for everybody, because I actually ask my students to contribute, to attend, to kind of put themselves out there, to try something new, to learn something that, well, I mean, like you said, the textbook only goes so far, you know? I can't, and I'm sure you guys have heard it, how many times I've been teaching and, all right, the textbook says this, but we're gonna ignore that because this is how it is in the real world.
Right.
And, yeah, it's real.
If I may add something to what you were saying, starting last year, we did kind of have an informational kind of meeting with the middle schoolers and the 8th graders that will be coming in as freshmen. We actually gained a lot of publicity through that, and it definitely helped to higher our numbers, and I'm hoping that we will be able to do that again this year and continue to talk with the middle schoolers too.
It's on the docket. I gotta check with Mrs. Allen. I think it's early June
Yep.
that we head over there. I can't recall when.
Yeah, but that will definitely help. And
Yeah.
there will be, I think we have our emails, so everyone can reach out to us if they have further questions. But yeah, that's one of the big things we do.
That's great.
What does DECA stand for?
There it is.
I was told in advance this would be a good question.
It's a great question, and one that I don't have the answer to. And I
The D
wish
isn't
I
for
did.
disaster and
Do the students, do you guys,
Yeah, I-
education,
Disaster Education Committee of America.
I know that,
Distribute Education Clubs of
yes,
What is it?
Distributive.
it
Distributive.
was that.
That's, I don't think that's what it stands for
It
anymore.
might be like the old.
It's-
I think
older
they got
version
rid
It's a
of,
new one?
I think they got rid of the acronym altogether and it's just DECA now.
Just call it, oh,
If
okay.
there's no.
Maybe that's what.
yeah, it says
Distributed.
formally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
doesn't really describe what the club is at all.
Yeah,
When was it founded? No, I'm just kidding.
48.
yeah, I was gonna say, that's right on my door, and
Yeah.
like this emblem. Yeah.
Who were the founders?
You read it.
Totally-
I have no idea.
I'm just totally giving you a hard time.
Fred.
Close.
I do have one more real question, though. Are any of you, I know you're a senior, are any of you doing internships next year or the year after, thinking about it? Too early?
I'll start. So I would like to do an internship, but part of the process is I don't know where to start with the internship. So I want to like be involved in political aspects of whether it's the Grafton community or bigger community, and I just haven't started looking for that yet.
That's fine. You'll get information when it's time. Or you can watch our meeting next week, or 2 weeks from now. We'll be talking about internships.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say pretty much the same thing for me. I'm looking to do an internship, mainly my, senior year, but I don't really know where to start either. But yeah, I'm definitely looking into it.
Kind of exactly what my friends here said. I'm very interested in doing an internship. I know that Mike had reached out a little bit ago about talking to him about that, so I will talk with him and Mr. Maxwell to further that. But I'm excited for it. So.
Great.
Cool.
Any other questions? Thank you for coming in. That's great.
Great to
Thank
see
you.
Good luck the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The secret to life is love, just so you know.
Is that in your room?
It will be now.
Thank you. Thanks.
No,
Yeah, you can
you're
leave them
fine.
all.
Thank you so much.
Bowling party.
Thank you.
What's that?
Fun with your bowling party. I
I
heard you're
hope
having a bowling
to.
party.
It should be good. Well, we're
Wait.
interviewing a small business owner.
I'm sorry. what?
Ah,
Yeah, so, I mean, because that's the only way, that we officially get
I'm
to
on a
go.
league.
Is if we interview a small business owner.
Yeah.
So we're going to go to interview a small, and we did it a few years ago over at Friendly Fire Paintball.
Uh-huh.
We tested out their new equipment and then interviewed the new business owner over lunch.
Wait, are you going
I
to
see how you
Bolero?
work now.
No, we're headed to
Pins?
Spare Time.
Where's
Down-
that?
Yeah, down in Whitensville, about 20 minutes south.
Oh,
Oh, the,
is that
Yeah.
Candlepin?
yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Wow.
sorry, I'm in a league.
Spare time, huh? I'm writing that down.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Anyway, anytime.
Thanks, Mr. Maxwell.
Thank you very much.
As of how many days ago?
What?
As of how many days ago?
A week, and I have to miss tomorrow because of ARPA, but hey,
So you've been
one week.
to one league.
It counts.
We're going to welcome Bob Wall and Nicole McDonald for our special education report. While they're coming up and getting ready, I'm going to fill in the time by saying this is our second visit this year with our special education department. We had them in the fall. They told us kind of what their plans were for the year, and now they're here to tell us how awesome and wonderful everything is, and maybe a little bit about next year, but maybe not. So without further ado, Mr. Wall.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. We greatly appreciate it. So this is our agenda for this evening. I'm going to start off with the Parents Special Education Advisory Committee, talk about Everyday Heroes, an update on behavioral programming, a little bit on the Best Buddies Prom, Unified Sports. I'm going to give you an update on extended school year, talk about our extension of reading services, program transitions, and then finally, any questions it is that you might have. So I'm going to dive right in. So first of all, I'd like to welcome and congratulate our new officers for the CPAC. Chair has been Stella Dykes. She's been involved for several years now. She was formerly the treasurer. Secretary continues to be Sarah Goggins. And the treasurer, Heather Nadeau, who had been one of the co-chairs previously, has become the treasurer. It's a very, very strong team. We're very, very fortunate to have them in place. We've forged an excellent working relationship with the CPAC, and look forward to continuing that relationship. So I'm very, very pleased to have them on board. As everyone here is probably aware, hopefully, we will be continuing our tradition of our Everyday Heroes. The nominations went out. We've had people nominated. The awards night will actually be this Thursday, May 12th. This is a very, very special sort of an event in Grafton. It's not something that I've ever heard any other district doing. It's something that we're especially proud of and very, very happy with. So we're very much looking forward to that night. It really is a very, very special night for staff, parents, and students alike. So by all means, if any of you are available, would love to see you. Best Buddies Prom.
So I'll jump in. I actually got the privilege to send them off to the Best Buddies Prom. I think most folks are familiar with Best Buddies as an organization and a program. We have a fantastic Best Buddies program at our Grafton High School. We also work with Grafton Middle School for any students that might want to participate. But Best Buddies hosts a prom for students, and it's disability friendly. Prom has a lot of students that participated in the Best Buddies group and club throughout the year, got to participate, and we're all very happy. Dr. Cummings was also there. They were ecstatic to get on their cool coach bus and head to Oxford High School. So there's a couple pictures there of this, some of the group, and then here's the whole group at Oxford High School all together. Lauren Mulhern and Hope Snyder are our advisors. Lauren Mulhern's a special education teacher at Grafton High School, and Hope Snyder is a paraprofessional at Grafton High School. They make all the things happen for Best Buddies. They make the group happen every week, but also any events, anything that Best Buddies is running, they make sure our kids get there, which is a really important component to that. I have listed some of our dance chaperones: Jenna Nisi, Patty Champy, Maddie Martin Mills, Pat O'Connell, Erin Gallagher, and Sue Tillotson. Without those folks and those chaperones, we really probably couldn't have made that happen for all those students. So I really want to make sure that they're identified as strong components to this program. So moving into unified track and field. So we do have unified sports that occur at Grafton High School. Again, we try to pull in some middle schoolers as well if they would like to participate. Unified sports really does pair students with disabilities with students without disabilities. Here's a little more information. So we have unified basketball, track and field. I think we've done bocce as just switching it up year to year. So it's a great opportunity. We had over 20 athletes participate in our track and field for unified sports. And again, we couldn't make this happen without advisors and people making that happen. So I think that that's a really important component to this is our special education teacher, Jen Blanchard, took on unified track and field and ran that for us. So I want to make sure she's identified in being an essential component to giving students opportunities to play sports.
So jumping into our behavioral programming assessment. So we're really looking as a district at all times to what goes well for us with regard to our special education programming, but also areas we need to improve, of course. So I think that this was something that I've been really working with Bob and Dr. Cummings and Mrs. Gasper on. We really need to explore what we have for our behavioral programming. Social emotional supports typically is interchangeable with that behavioral programming. What is going really, really well, and then where our needs are. So we're kind of in the midst of that and getting all the information we need to look at areas where we can say, like, we're really strong at this, and maybe we're strong at this school, but we want to spread the wealth in that area, or, we have some needs in this area, so let's try to figure out how we're boosting that up. So I think it's always important to continue to analyze that, take a look at what kind of supports or resources we might need, any training we might need, and how we really coordinate that interconnectedness from pre-K all the way up to even our school to work program, our 18 to 22.
Extended school year services. So the location this year is going to be Grafton High School. We did consolidate it, and there are a number of reasons for that. Number one is so that it makes it more convenient for parents as opposed to having to drive all over the district in order to collect their children. In addition to that, it allows us to be able to share staff more effectively because the staff shortage this year is real. And so this allows us to be able to utilize our resources to the maximum potential. We have two kind of different programs within the ESY program. People think of ESY as one great big umbrella. Actually, it's two programs within a program. One part of the program is what we call our classroom programs, and those are for students that have more significant disabilities typically, and those are half-day or full-day programs. But they're actually within the confines of a classroom, and the idea there is that it really helps them to develop those foundational skills and helps them to make sure that they grow academically, behaviorally, socially, and emotionally. Those are students that need more significant support. Our tutorial and walk-in services are for students that experience some challenges, but not to the same extent to the students that require the program support. That's why that particular program is of a shorter duration. It's 4 weeks as opposed to 5, and those services are walk-in services. So a student that's in the classroom program might receive speech and language services as part of that program, but there also might be a student who, while they're experiencing success in other areas, are still continuing to struggle with his speech and language services, so they receive speech and language services during the summer. We also have walk-in occupational therapy, physical therapy, reading services, and then for those students that require ELA and math support, all of those are available through our tutorial services. And those start at the preschool level and work right up on through to the school to work program. As far as eligibility is driven through the special education process, and it really is whether or not the child has a developmental skill that needs to be addressed during the summer program, or if they experience what is known as regression or recruitment a lack of recoupment during their special education services. Regression, all students experience regression during absences. When I say absences, I'm talking about vacations, breaks from instruction. What recoupment is it's the amount of time it takes for them to regain or recoup their skills. And it's something that's identified under the special education law. And so students that require over a month to recoup or regain the skills it is that were lost during a break in service, those are the students it is that we look at who require those additional services. We collect data to determine the appropriateness of those services throughout the school year, and then during their IEP meeting, that data is discussed and the decision is made whether or not they continue to require ESY services or not, or for some students that they haven't had ESY services in the past but now require them.
So, a lot goes into moving a location of programming for sure. So we did want to include, preschool, right? So everyone's thinking, oh gosh, preschool at the high school, how does that even work? So we very consciously plan that in order to make sure that we have a preschool classroom set up properly at the high school. So these are just pictures of what a preschool classroom entails. So our goal is to set up our classrooms at our high school level to fit that. So we will have smaller tables, smaller chairs. We'll have, those lovely cube chairs that we love in preschool. We'll have some cubby spaces for students that need kind of a more direct teaching in a quieter environment. So we're planning and going through that whole process to make sure everything that all of our students need are done in that classroom. Preschool is a good example. Same with kindergarten and first grade. There are different specializations when you're talking about different age groups and different developmental levels or different needs. So we do have plans to make sure that it very much mimics the current environment that they are experiencing.
So when we talk about the logistics of ESY, there's a term that's tossed around, it takes a village, and this year that's certainly been more evident than any time in the recent past. There's a lot of moving parts that go into that. Part of it is identifying which students will be attending, scheduling the groups, staffing, and transportation. And all of those are important components to make sure that we have a successful ESY program. And I want to thank everybody who's helped us and supported us in making sure that our ESY program will be a success.
And I will add, we didn't put this on the slide, but also our families and parents and guardians that help and support us to also make this happen in their communication with us.
So when we talk about reading interventions, we have a number of different reading interventions in this district. As a matter of fact, I think that probably is one of the strengths of our district. Lisa Rice has done an amazing job in growing the reading program just in the 5 years that I have been here in the district, and it's hard to believe it's been 5 years already. From foundations right down at the kindergarten 1, 2, 3 level into the intervention programs like Wilson Just Words and the Wilson Reading System. We also have Seeing Stars. As a district, we have quite a number in varied number and types of reading intervention services. We also have Linda Mood Bell, as I mentioned earlier, Seeing Stars, and also visualizing and verbalizing. When we talk about reading services, we really do have quite a number of different interventions. However, as we take a look at those interventions, one of the things that we're always doing is we're looking at our data, and we're trying to, as Nicole had mentioned earlier, where is it that we can continuously improve, and what kind of programs is it that we really need to make sure that our students who we might not be seeing this level of success that we would like to see them experience, and where can we actually get better in our interventions. So in that vein, one of the areas that we've identified is Orton Gillingham training for special education teachers K through 8. Orton Gillingham is considered one of the basic ways in which it is that people teach reading to students. The Orton Gillingham method is the foundation for the Wilson method. They share the same pedagogical tree, if you will. They're based in the same theories. What really is different between Orton Gillingham and Wilson is the practice of how it is that it's actually presented to students. And so what we decided was that as a district, to ensure that all elementary teachers were outstanding teachers of reading, in providing this intervention for them, this training for them, what it would allow them to do is those students it is that we find that are starting to struggle will be able to get real, authentic, research-based, evidence-based interventions in the moment, in the classroom, to hopefully not have to turn to special education services, so that they can continue to make progress and not have to be pulled out of their general education programs. So this is just kind of generally is an overview of the Orton Gillingham approach. Much like I said with Wilson, they are kind of hand in hand. The difference between the both of them is actually how it is that it's implemented, but it's multisensory, sequential, incremental, cumulative, individualized, based on phonemes, and explicit. And the idea is to explicitly teach what it is that many of our students gather from foundations and other intervention programs, but this really kind of drills down so that we ensure that all students are able to acquire these skills and not have gaps. So When we talk about these intervention programs, one of the things it is that we identified was at the middle school, we wanted something a little bit different and a little bit more. When we talk about reading intervention programs in the elementary levels, those students are frequently pulled out of the general education classrooms. In our pull-out English language arts classrooms, that's a 45-minute classroom, and we were really trying to figure out how we could blend the requirements for meeting the Common Core state standards, as well as making sure that these students really become excellent readers. And that's a challenge for that group of students, and it's a heavy lift for them. So we did a lot of research. Lisa and I spent a lot of time. We consulted with many professionals, many experts in the field, people that led what it is that's going on with the Dyslexia Council right now in Massachusetts. And we settled on Language Live, and we're going to be piloting Language Live next year in our middle school program. And what a Language Live actually does is it embeds, it incorporates the explicit reading instruction that we were talking about into the ELA instruction as well. So now, not only is that instruction meaningful, but it's not work on the Common Core state standards or learn how to read. Let's do the both of them together. So we're very, very excited about this. We've had some pilots. We're going to be doing some additional work on this over the summer, and this is something that we're very, very excited about for next year. We feel as though this will be a phenomenal program for that group of students.
So, Amy, you had brought up transitioning for next year. So, of course, every year we have kids move and they get older, right? So we've really been focusing in on our specialty programs and how we can best transition some of our students that have the most significant needs in our district. So that has involved a lot of people, I feel like everything with special education involves a lot of people, in making sure that the students that are transitioning, whether it's from the middle school to the high school, from Millbury Street, North Street to the middle school, or from North Grafton and South Grafton to Millbury Street or North Street, to make sure they have everything they need, they have the environment they need, they have the staffing they need, and any equipment, materials, all of that stuff should be going with them. And we're making sure that we've already started those conversations, I think back in January, about what we need for next year. And so all of that is moving and rolling, and that has involved some changes in classrooms and moving classrooms, adding things to classrooms, talking about moving materials, including some significant equipment that some of our students require in order to be successful. And a lot of that conversation does actually meld into what we were talking about for ESY. My goal in life is to make sure that ESY prepares our students for the next school year as well. So we're being very mindful about who we're slotting for paraprofessionals and trying to get that person working with the student over the summer, taking a look at space. And I know we're moving to the high school, so some of our students that are moving to the high school, we're trying to be really skillful about what classroom they're in at the high school so they can get very familiar and used to that classroom. So it's all very thoughtfully laid out right now. It's just a matter of making sure it's all executed the way we want, and in the vein of making sure students have what they need for their next school year, which I think is essential. We are, expanding a lot of our specialized programs and exploring those needs. We've also talked a lot about the potential for tuitioning students into our intensive needs types programs, because they do so well, and our teachers are so strong and so successful that we want to spread the wealth. We want other people to experience what Grafton Public Schools has in our intensive needs and specialty programming. So I think that is an essential component.
Just to digress on one moment in the tuitioning in, and this is another area in which Grafton is quite unique. We have other districts that actually pay for their special education students to attend Grafton Public Schools because of the strength of our programming. This year alone, we've included 2 additional students. At the same time, while we're doing that, obviously, those students are experiencing the wealth of what it is that our own students experience. Just to give you a particular example, we had one student that was tuitioned in at 7th grade and was a functional non-reader. This year, as a junior in high school, he exited from special education services. So that shows you the strength of the programs it is that we actually have. And when you really look at the number of students at the secondary level that are able to exit from special education services, that really is testimony to the hard work it is that our teachers and our parents do on a daily basis. And oftentimes, one of the things that gets discussed is that Grafton does have a very, I'll call it robust, extended school year program. But that robust extended school year program enables us to help support these students so that when they get into the secondary level, they're able to exit their reading services. They're able to exit their speech and language services so that they can be fully included in the general education environment as greatly as possible. So it's something that we're especially proud of, and other districts in the area recognize it as well. So there you go. What are your questions?
That was a lot.
That was a lot.
Laura?
That was great. Thank you so much. Excellent presentation. I really appreciated the depth that you went into, especially regarding the reading programs. I've never quite seen them laid out so explicitly and what they do for each, and I appreciate that. I think your presentation was really in-depth and well done. I had two questions. One is a little question about the preschool and the high school and bathrooms. Have you thought about having I'm sure you have, stools
So
and.
we have stools, and we also have adapted stools for students that maybe have some mobility concerns that can't really navigate a typical stool.
Okay.
Those include, I know details that I think of day in and day
Yeah,
out.
I know.
Like handles to walk up, that it's
Okay.
not just like a step
little step stool,
you know.
sure.
We have toilet seat modification so that it's
Perfect.
small enough. That has been a barrier in the past. A lot of people would talk about like, well, what about the toilets? And
Yeah.
that's why we've always kept it at North or South Grafton Elementary School. And funny enough, someone said to me, well, how do the children use the bathroom at their house?
Right.
Right? So that all makes sense to
Right,
me.
or when they go to
you're
the mall.
right. Children
Yeah.
have to go to the bathroom on a regular toilet.
Yeah.
We can make that modification for the ease and the importance of being in one location, having climate control, all of those factors, the transportation for our students are so huge in supporting the program that we could work around those.
Yeah, 100%. I should have known that you would have thought of it. I just want, because I was
all
going
the
through,
nuances,
I wrote
yeah.
it down and then I crossed it off because I was like, I remember with my preschoolers, I carried around the door the Explorer,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and the little stool and everything. I'm very grateful I don't have to do that anymore. My other question is going back to the behavioral program way back in the beginning. It's all right, I got it. Behavioral programming assessment. Were we looking, and I'm not sure if this falls under special ed, but I would think it would, any kind of trauma-based? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a major factor in us really looking at that.
Yeah.
So it's not just the students with kind of challenging behavior, it's the multifaceted students with more complex challenges that I think we really want to work on and beef up. I think we're talking about, coming out of a pandemic in which a lot of people have some traumatic experiences through that whole situation, and I think that that's something that has manifested in the form of behavior
Yeah.
in an educational setting.
100%.
So that is a huge component to what we're looking at and what services, and although tier 3 is your special education, what are the other things? What's the tier 1 we're doing? What's the tier 2 we're doing? Because ideally, we're all one district, so it may not be a special education responsibility, but it's a responsibility for us as educators to make sure we have everything in place for the students that need that. So for me, that piece was a huge component to why I wanted to look into that a little bit more.
Thank you.
Other questions? Jen?
Continuing with the behavioral programming, because you were saying that you're looking at things and things that you can approve. So are there things that you found that you'd like to approve, or that if you had enough resources, are there anything what resource do you need that you feel you're not getting?
That's a great question. So I think that there were a lot of things that, as I started to look at this through a lot of interviews, talking with staff, because I think our staff members that are kind of on the front lines of working with students with challenging behavior or social emotional concerns are our most informed individuals on what we have that's working and what we have that's not working. So a lot of my work was interviewing those folks, general educators, special educators, school adjustment counselors, school psychologists, behavior specialists, principals, everyone that's kind of in the building to take a look at some of that stuff. I think that the things that we have that are really fantastic is the level of expertise and knowledge that our specialized folks have. We have 6 BCBAs in this district with regard to ABA and behavior, and I will tell you that's a rare. Most districts have 1 BCBA that oversees an entire district. We have a BCBA at every single building, and that person functions as a real right-hand person to our assistant principals and principals that are navigating some challenging behavior that goes on day to day. Our expertise of our school adjustment counselors. We have several school adjustment counselors that are also licensed clinical social workers. We have a fantastic wealth of knowledge. I think the piece that I would like us to work towards is having less pockets of success and more of an integrated continuum of interventions and services. I think through my conversations with individuals, that came up frequently. These are the great things we're doing here at Millbury Street. Well, these are the great things we're doing here at North Street, but why aren't we doing it at both, right? So I think for me that was a huge component, is trying to find those things that we can spread the wealth and make sure we're firming up that continuum of service to make sure that the kids that might be struggling at early elementary, our elementary buildings are aware of, and we're intervening early, and we're making sure that we are progressing that student along our continuum.
I'd like to build on that as well. In the time it is that I've been here, we've hired a full-time school psychologist. We've also hired 2 school adjustment counselors.
Yeah.
That's quite an investment in the social-emotional functioning of the students in the district.
Yeah.
That means that every single building has a full-time school psychologist, and our 2 late elementary schools both have full-time school psychologists, and we have the late elementary schools have school adjustment counselors, and our secondary buildings have 3 adjustment counselors. So that really provides a great number of staff to help us provide these supports to students. So as far as resources, Grafton really is very fortunate, and we've really done an excellent job in that area.
The additional piece I think that we also want to focus on, and we've had many conversations about it, is training, making sure people feel armed to navigate a social emotional crisis or navigate social conflicts that are coming from some emotional concerns or within the classroom. So training for our general educators, more training, I always plug the more training for paraprofessionals. We're still working out what that training is and what that should look like, and whether that's differentiated based on role and experience or those nuances. But I think that is something that I heard from everyone. I just want more information. How do I help my students? So I think that is something that we'll definitely be pushing for moving forward.
Great, thank you. So also tying in with you saying how much we can offer, you were talking about tuitioning in. Do we have something in place for, when we school choice, we only have a limited amount of spots, so we don't overextend the current staff? So is there something that you guys have in place, or numbers, or how are you basing it?
As far as tuitioning?
So typically
Yes.
for a tuition in situation, for special education, any school district either needs to start a program to work for their student that they have for their individual needs, or find a program that works for their individual needs. So it's kind of like we might have students that have out-of-district placements because we might not have the programming in district and we need to send them out. It's the same with those districts. So many districts tuition into us that maybe don't have an intensive needs program or don't have that solid kind of reading program. So it's the individual districts that have to decide whether they have the programming for their individual student. And if they don't, they reach out to, we're on many listservs. Did anybody have a programming that I could come look at? Like things like that. So we try to put ourselves out there as strong in the areas that we really are strong, so that our other districts are aware of that and will reach out if they need somebody.
And only when we have
Right.
availability.
Yes.
Yeah, I was
Right.
just gonna build on that.
Yeah.
That's done on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
So the first thing that we do is that when we see that, we reach out and we say, okay, you know, this District X is looking for this kind of level of programming and everything. How do people feel about our programming in this area right now? That's a conversation that happens between Nicole and I, and happens between the principals, and then gets drilled down into the other professionals.
Yeah.
And if people feel as though we have the capacity to be able to do that, then that's something that we say, hey, you know, this is something that, you know, we'd be willing to explore if you're interested in exploring it with us. There have been plenty of times when those things have come out, and we haven't felt like we've had the capacity in that particular
Yeah.
area, so we've passed.
All right, no, thank you. That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
You have your hand up first.
I was curious about the extended school year. You said that you collect data to determine whether the kids would take more than a month to recoup from being outside of school. How do you get that data when supposedly they wouldn't have been out for more than a month? Or do you look at kids who maybe have had a summer where they had difficulty recouping, and then the next year?
Yeah. So that's an excellent question. So there's a couple of different ways it is that we do that. So first of all, obviously, we look at the summer slide, which is the time it is that students are absent from school over the summer. We also look at Christmas vacation, and we look at February vacation, and all of those are important data points. And all of those help to provide data to let us know how much the students actually had that regression, and then how long it took them to relearn, to reacquire those skills. And as students we know through years of experience, as students get older, many students become more resilient, and their need for regression or recoupment is not the same that it used to be. For other students, it continues on to be a strong part of their learning profile. But that's how it is that we collect that data, is we look at the natural breaks in the school year and then collect data around that when they return.
Okay, thank you. And then my other question was about Language Live. You said that it was an integrated program. I was just wondering how that works. So are the kids who need intervention and the kids who don't need intervention, are they both getting the same instruction, or
So-
how does that?
Yep, that's an excellent question.
Okay.
This is for the students that receive our substantially separate programming at the middle school.
Oh,
So
okay.
these are not the students that are integrated into our COTAC classes. These are students that are requiring special education services in English language arts. And those students have written expression, reading concerns that are substantially more than those that are in the COTAC classes. In virtually all of those students, matter of fact, every single one that I know of at the present time, all have reading concerns. So this just helps to support them in a more natural way where it's embedded within the content.
I see.
Okay,
thank
does
you.
that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Graciela.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you're working, or if you do, with the ELL department to make sure that students are not being over-identified for reading disabilities or for any kind of disability?
That's actually an excellent question. So first of all, we've had a couple of team chairs that have participated in some professional development specifically in this area, because that is an area that is an area of potential growth for Grafton. In addition to that, that's something that we spend a lot of time in our student support teams as those teams look at their data and they make informed decisions. And when they come up against those cases where they have a student who's not making progress in ELL, then they kind of come back to Nicole and myself and they say, okay, you know, this is a student we're looking for a little bit of additional support on. This is a student we're kind of wondering what might be the issue. We take a look at the data. We also take a really close look at the WIDA data, because that's the testing that goes on for ELL students, because ELL students acquire language at different rates and in different ways than students that don't have English language learner needs. And sometimes especially when their verbal and oral language starts to become more developed, but their academic language is starting to lag, frequently people have concerns that that is a special education issue, but we know through research that that is actually the typical developmental profile of ELL learners. So depending upon what the particular issues are and what the amount of lag is and what the development has been for that student, sometimes we tell them, right now you just need to be patient, continue with the interventions. Sometimes it moves to an RTI thing, sometimes it moves to special education. So it's not one of those things that it's a black and white. It really is something that's a case-by-case basis and depends upon the strengths and the needs of the student.
So would you say that Grafton does a good job in, I know it's hard to differentiate whether it's culturally linguistic, culturally or linguistic, load of the child.
I would say over the past couple of years, we've become much better than we were. In speaking to me, I'm someone that is very, very critical of things, and I always want to be the best. So do I think that we can do a better job? I always think that we can do a better job, but I think that when you compare what we do compared to other similarly placed districts, that we would be amongst the top, yes.
And another question: what percentage of your special ed population receives ESY?
It's just shy of a third right now. So we have over 600 students, give or take, depending upon who's transitioning in and out of special education at the time of our total population. And of that population, just over 200 receive special education services. So it's about a third of our special education students.
And how many students would you say are exiting special education services?
That is a harder number for me to do. That's something that I actually do in the fall because we take a look at our census numbers and that's something that we look at in June and in October. So it's hard for me to be able to give you a number like that right now off the top of my head, but certainly the next time it is that we come before you, we can talk about what our number of students of exiting special education services. But you have to remember, as Nicole says, a child turns 3 every single day. Okay? In the time it is that I've been here, our overall qualification for special education services, when we first came on board, was around 22, 23%, and now it's dropped down to around 19%.
Nice.
So obviously, we're trending in the right
Exactly what I
direction.
was going to say.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Do I have any questions left? You guys were very thorough. What would you say to parents who maybe thought that their child should be getting ESY because of what they've observed in terms of, and I'll use a phrase that I don't particularly care for, learning loss, but didn't get notification that their child is qualified? What do you say to them?
So one of the hard things is that children present differently in different environments. And one of the things it is that students need to work on is what we call a carryover. So what it is that you are demonstrating in the academic environment can be different than what it is that a student is demonstrating in a home environment. And that doesn't mean that they haven't acquired the skill. It just means that right now they're really working on generalizing that skill at home. So because the parents aren't necessarily seeing the skill, does not mean that the student hasn't necessarily acquired it.
And I would add, that our parents are a part of that special education team, and they should definitely, if they have concerns about how their student didn't get extended school year, they should reach out to their team chair and ask for a team meeting because they are a crucial part of that team, and their input and their thoughts on that matters. So that's what I would say.
Do we have anybody tuitioning in for ESY, or do we not offer that?
We don't offer
Do
that
not,
at the
okay.
current time. We don't have anybody we don't have anybody specifically tuitioning in for
Right.
ESY.
That's my question.
Yes.
We do have students that do participate in our ESY.
That are tuition during the
program.
school year that do
Right.
require ESY, yes.
I think that is all my questions. Anyone else? It's a lot to think about. Thank you so much. You were so thorough. We love it when you guys come in. Can't wait to see you again in the fall. Have a great summer. I know it won't be much of a vacation, but it sounds like you've got your work cut out for you.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to move into discussion of programming update for our 1822 program. Oh, you're staying.
I'm staying.
Excellent. So we'll turn it over to Jay and Nicole again.
Yeah, it's not.
There it is.
Just talk amongst yourselves. All right. I did want to obviously thank Bob and Nicole. When they talked about the when they talked about the prom, I wanted to just thank AA Transportation.
yes.
Originally, they were scheduled to have just your regular old buses take the kids over. I called thinking, not looking for a favor or anything else, saying we wanted to upgrade to the charter. And they said, oh, Best Buddies, we love Best Buddies. And they covered the entire cost, which was just awesome and nice. And the kids
Yes.
loved it. To get on the fancy bus is always
Yeah.
cool. So I'm very excited about this discussion. Bob's a big part of this. You're more than welcome to come up, Bob. But Bob and Nicole, much like myself and Kristen, we don't do every single project together. Kind of under Nicole's umbrella, what has been the 18 to 22 program that we have at the high school. She came in and saw me sometime in the fall, and this is me excited, but she was like really excited and said, we've got to change our 18 to 22 program. And I said, in my head, it was a very good, if not a great program right now. And I basically was like, she's always looking for money and to do things better, which is great, but like really. And she had gone over and saw the Sugar Shack, the Westboro program. And I had known that that was considered recently the best program in Central Mass, if not in the state. And she had done a tour of it and just said it was awesome. Like, that's what our kids need. And that was only back in the fall. And here we are today, and we're going to lay out what we're hoping would be approved for a plan moving forward. So in terms of history, back in 2012, I was relatively new to the role, and we decided to do an assessment of our 18 to 22 program, which was, I think, pretty good. And we had the assessment done, and we made a bunch of changes, brought on Sean Langevin, different staff, restructured in a lot of ways, and made it very good, if not great in many ways. And since that time, it's been considered one of the stronger programs in Central Mass. It's currently located at Grafton High School, kind of on the back of GMS. And we had to be at the high school, but we wanted, even years ago, to have the program as best we could feel like it's not embedded in the high school. It's nothing like graduating from high school and then going back to high school. It's a young adult program focused on life and vocational skills. The students have internships in the community. Some of the examples are up there, Hannaford's, Tractor Supply, et cetera. A lot of trips into the community, very purposeful trips into the community on a regular basis, basically a daily basis. Number of students ranges from 5 to 12, and that varies as we have kids turning 3 every day. We have kids
turning 22
every day. So the numbers vary, but 5 to 12 generally. So in 2021, back in the fall, the question that we had after I dealt with excited Nicole was, how could we move the program that we had from very good to great? So one of our first steps was myself, Bob Wall, and Nicole, and I think we dragged Anita Patel over to see the program. So we met with their superintendent, assistant superintendent, their program director, and we had a great tour and a long discussion with all of those representatives of the borough program. Originally, we were talking about maybe doing some kind of collaboration where we would be based there, but have it be a Grafton-Westboro thing. In the end, that collaboration piece just didn't work. They were wonderful to work with. We learned a ton from them. But our takeaway was, or the big question that we had was, can we replicate that and do that in Grafton? And we've been working on it for months since. So if you go over, you've probably at least driven by it. It's near the Rotary in Westboro. It's a community-based location, so it's not too far from the high school and the schools. They built it in partnership with a business, and they created their own business. And it's specially designed space to meet the unique needs of that program. What they had is basically 3 different areas. They have a storefront, they have basically a work area, a kitchen slash
Prep space.
prep space, yeah, big tables where it's set aside, and then a third space where there are tables. It basically, and I keep talking, but jump in. It reminded me of, like, this is me excited, of
Like a
usually,
college kind of
Yeah.
feel. It has, you know, a kitchen area where the kids can eat lunch together. I say kids, but they're adults. And has kind of an instructional space. It has a separate kind of chill out area where they can, you know, maybe play some video games or watch a little TV to work on some leisure skills. Very adult. Did
Yeah.
not feel like a
Yeah.
classroom.
I think college, it reminded me of the first floor of a lot of
Yeah.
dorms.
Yes.
Where kids can kind of hang out, and it's just, it's not a high school. So those 3 spaces they had over there. Do you want to touch on any of?
Yes, I was told not to talk a lot, but this was my excitement. So, the special education implications for this. I listed a bunch here because there is so much that really would build the lives and prepare our students for adulthood. Being a part of the community, in the community, working on job attainment within the community, pairing with different community members to be able to have our students learn and grow in an adult kind of setting outside of an educational high school setting has so many benefits for them. A lot of these students would likely move to adult type programming, and I think it prepares them much more for adult programming than, you know, a high school educational based program. So I think that's one of the major implications for how this is going to grow our special education department.
So obviously a long list of tremendous pluses if we could figure out a way to
Right.
replicate what we saw in Westboro and what we had decided was best for our students. So we were ready to go, basically. It struck me, for a little while, I've been thinking about Chuck Brown, who's known as the bread guy in town. He runs a business, he runs it right now out of the kitchen of his house. I knew Chuck a little bit when he was in education, so a certified educator, certified administrator. When I knew of him, just a great guy, and I knew he liked kids. So we had the idea from Westboro, and we were looking for that missing piece, and that was what kind of business idea could we bring in to work with us in this space? And so we pursued the bread guy. And what I did with him is emailed him early on, said, I think it literally said, this is probably a crazy idea. But we had him in a half dozen times at least, and just talked about things we could do in terms of different ways we could set up a partnership that would work on his end and work for us.
And I will say his passion for kids and kids with disabilities and growth and education was really a huge factor
Yeah. Yep.
in that thought.
So we had the seeds of what we wanted, a business idea, and then we started looking for space. We wanted all of these things, and we wanted it to be in Grafton. To some degree, the closer the better. We wanted at least 3,000 square feet. We went out and just looked at a bunch of different available properties to get a sense of, is it 3,000? Do we need 2,500? Do we need 4,000? Whatever it was. We wanted to have that commercial piece, obviously parking and van accessibility for staffing and for the vans that are tied to this program. Obviously a competitive lease rate and flexible term is what we wanted. So in March, we put out a request for bids. So we basically laid this out in an RFP. And anytime a school district or town leases space, they have to put this out. So we did that. And we had one bidder for the RFP. That's at 204 Worcester Street, North Grafton. It's a property, if you looked, you probably all know where this is, but if off to the right, just out of sight, is Reunion. And to the left of this would be Verizon. Further down the road, Cumbies, Wyman Gordon. At one point, I know it as a florist. I've run in there a couple times, desperate. And it was something after that, but
Signature finish.
that's, oh, okay. I didn't ever go in. Here are a few photos of the space. It's wide open right now. Feel free to add to this. I don't have much to.
Well, we liked that it was wide open, because
Yeah.
we could create the space.
Do whatever you want with it, yeah.
Exactly, the way we wanted
Yeah,
it to be.
But in all the spaces we looked at, this was easily our number one,
Yeah.
by far. All right, so if we were to go ahead and lease the space, we're obviously going to have an initial investment, being the renovation of that space. We need to set up the different areas that we talked about, some with full walls, some with partial walls. We'd need to set up for the bread guy and that partnership and create a kitchen area and obviously a storefront in which we can sell the breads. I'm going to get into the costs, but in a general sense, our approach is going to be at the to utilize school choice funds for all of the one-time costs upfront. And this is just we're still working with the architect, trying to really nail down what those costs will be. The estimate right now ranges between $100,000 and $150,000. Obviously, the cost of the architect, the demo, that flooring, the actual floor is fine, but the flooring on top needs to be replaced. We obviously need to set it up as we want to. We're not sure if we're going to need that electric. We thought that we'd have to upgrade, but the building inspector, Bob Berger, has been working with Anita. They have gone over to take a look at the space a few times, and as it stands right now, we don't think we actually need to upgrade electrical. But if it does need to be upgraded, that's the approximate cost. There are a couple of bathrooms that need some plumbing changes in order to make them just more effective and handicapped accessible. We're going to need the furniture and small appliances. We'd have two kitchen areas, one the more industrial kitchen area, and then an area much like you would see in a downstairs of a student dorm. Microwave, fridge, etc. We need to obviously put in doors with those walls and do some work in the ceiling area. So again, the overall or general estimate is $100,000 to $150,000. I think I put the 150 just to be on the safe side. They've come in between 100 and 120. In terms of new ongoing costs, so those are largely one-time, but once we get up and running, we'd have a monthly lease payment of approximately $3,400. That includes triple net, so all plowing, insurance costs, anything above and beyond is tied into that $3,400. That calculation includes revenue generated through a sublease. So we would sublease a certain number of square feet to the bread guy in this case. That's going to be the same rate that we're paying for the rest of the space. So if he was to take 600 square feet, obviously that would be at a rate of $17 in change per square foot, and we would bring in that revenue roughly, in this case, if we use the 600 square feet, we'd bring in about $900 per month from the bread guy. We would split utilities. That's our just agreement for at least that first year. If we do move forward, we're going to have a 3-year contract with 2 5-year extensions possible. In terms of the ongoing costs, we already have interest, as we talked about earlier, in tuitioning in. This is a perfect program to tuition students in, and we already have people who have expressed interest. It would take one student being tuitioned in to cover all of the ongoing costs on an annual basis. That's our goal. And again, that's just one student. So we also, I should say, while everything's gone fantastic with the bread guy. He's definitely interested in the sublease. I think that is a home run in so many ways. If for whatever reason that didn't either go forward or it lasted 3 years and didn't go beyond that, we wanted to set up a space in that we could sublease to anybody, or if needed, create our own business model like they did with the candy at in Westboro. In terms of that sublease, I actually touched on most of this, but that $17 per square foot, where right now we think it's going to be 600 square feet. If we move forward, the next step is to bring in the architect and really start looking at actual space, size of ovens, racks, all of that stuff. The bread guy, and this would go for any group that we were to sublease with, they're going to bring in any kind of specialized ovens, mixers, cooking supplies, ingredients. All of that stuff just comes into the sublease space. We're going to provide electrical access, of course, refrigerators, and an industrial sink. So in terms of timeline, we're asking the school committee tonight to consider a request to enter into a lease at 204 Worcester Street in North Grafton. If supported tonight, we would finalize work with the architect to get him in, get all the key players into that space and start really mapping it out. We would begin renovations as soon as possible. The hope would be that we'd be up and running with some kind of opening in August or September of next year. And we would, from that point on, begin the 2022-2023 school year in that new space. You may want to touch on this, but this doesn't mean that every student going back to the different internships will have some students where this is just perfect for them. Other students may contribute and help out to a lesser degree than others and may participate in internships off-site, which is 100% great.
Yeah, it would still be a special education program in which the interventions and supports would be individualized to each student. So this may not be something that all of our students access, or maybe they access it for part of the day and then they're out at maybe Tractor Supply or one of our other off-site job sites for another part of the day. So it would be very individualized to each individual student and what their needs were. But this does provide us with an on-site job site that we don't have at Grafton High School. So it's definitely something that some of our students need, that on-site piece to job site.
And that's all we have for slides. We can take any questions. Sorry, Darcy.
I know, I saw her hand, I was gonna start with something else, but go ahead, Laura.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think this is amazing. I love your enthusiasm. I love what this is going to do for our students, that they're going to have a separate place, that they're getting real job experience. I have a few logistical questions, and I'll just start. I won't dominate. But so one, the Chuck is his name. Chuck Brown is the bread guy. Is he an employee of Grafton? He's just going to work there, and then the students will be there, and they'll still have their teachers with them. They're not
Continue
just
to have their job coaches, as well as Sean Langevin as the teacher with the program that would work through the job with them.
Okay.
Chuck would be a subleasee. Is that what you would
right,
call?
right.
with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then my other question, and you answered part of it very well, but the 3-year contract is just with the leasing company, right? My concern is that we build this amazing program, we do this work, we spend this money, and then in 3 years, the building gets sold, or it's weird to not have control, I guess, makes me nervous.
So it's 3 years.
With an option for 5, and I know we don't.
In 2 5s, right.
In 2 5s, and I know we can't predict the future and everything, but what happens to our program if we lose our space? Would we would
We'd
move?
have to find another
We
space.
would just move. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're not going to think that. We're going to think positive.
I mean,
and-
that's certainly, anything's obviously possible. But I don't want to do it again, but we've done an awful lot in 6
Yep.
months, a ridiculous amount. We could do that.
And
again.
working
It might not be
with-
that perfect, but we could do it.
Have you, and obviously you've spoken to the, what is it, landlord?
Oh, yeah.
And they have expressed commitment to this
Oh,
program
100%.
and as best
Couldn't-
they
Couldn't be
can.
more,
Excited.
it could not. It's
Okay, that-
between that individual and Chuck Brown, it could not be, literally couldn't have handpicked
Yeah.
people that we
Everyone's
could be more excited about working.
Helping
with.
kids is the
phenomenal.
goal.
Okay, that's awesome. I also think perhaps we could have had some bread samples tonight. But that's okay.
Almost every meeting, he has brought.
Yeah,
red
I'm just saying, this is
Yeah.
a meeting.
us.
Yeah. Anyway, I want to thank you both. I know other people have to talk. I'm super excited about this. I'm super in favor of it. And I think this is amazing and wonderful.
Thank you. I should have added, I think we've touched on Anita Patel, but
Yeah.
Anita did a tremendous
Yes.
amount of work working with our lawyer, the
And
landlord,
two
Bob
dummies.
Berger, us. Yeah, Anita.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here tonight,
Absolutely.
even presenting this without her work.
Awesome.
Okay. I'm just going to piggyback on what Laura just said because I have to ask the follow-up question, which is, have we tried to get the landlord to give us a longer lease? Can we get a 5-year initial lease and then 5-year renewal?
I can certainly look into that.
On one hand, it's
Yeah.
nice to have a shorter term as we try it out and see if it's working, rather than being locked into a longer one.
Well,
I see both.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah,
both ways too.
that's
Yeah.
what-
but-
we went
ways
back and forth
You
on
can
that
have
as well.
termination provisions too. So if certain things happen, they understand if certain criteria are met, then maybe we'd be able to
Yeah.
terminate as well. But I had the same concern as
Yeah,
Laura.
yeah,
that
no,
the
it's a
money
very
that
good
we're
question.
putting into it,
We
and
can
then
certainly
if it-
pursue that tomorrow.
It's just
if
that loss of
they're-
control.
If the current landlord is cooperative, that's great. But like Laura said, things sometimes are out of their control, or they,
Yeah.
for financial reasons, have to sell, or they decide to sell, and then we have then we may not be able to renew that lease.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was the concern of mine, and
Okay.
and then I guess just hopefully it sounds like that I had a question about the cost estimate, and it sounds like you were already working with an architect to get those numbers, right? So,
Yes.
And do you know what the architect expenses are so far? Or is that,
I know
assume
that,
that's not too costly?
I didn't have it broken out, I apologize,
No,
but
it's
that is within that estimate.
It's
It's in that 100,000. I think if I had to bet, I'd say it's gonna be about 110
Okay.
total.
Okay. So Chuck is going to be working with the teachers who are running the program, and they're going to be what, making bread and
Some
just
could be
it sounds like an obvious question,
packaging.
but I'm just
Potentially, I think the focus would be on packaging, assembly line type stuff for product, the retail space, selling, taking, money, taking orders, purchases. I think I've learned a lot about bread. It's a process. So for our students to be able to bake bread and see that all the way through, that might take 48 hours for them. So I think it's going to be probably smaller baking needs, if that makes sense, that our students might work on. But a lot of it is more like the logistics of working for somebody, following the directions provided. We'd have kind of samples for the finished product of what like the bread packaging might look like, and have students kind of mimic that process. And then also that social piece of working in a retail space. We'd have like open hours where people could come in and purchase the bread that Chuck would make, and have that social interaction with the community as well.
Right. Very interesting. Very creative.
Graciela and then Jen.
So Chuck wouldn't have any other employees besides the students, I guess?
No, he very well
He would- he
could.
may-
Right now, that's not his plan.
Okay.
But if this goes
So he may
super well, he definitely could.
have employees?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I know you're saying that you're looking for the 22-23 school year. Is that too soon, like to get, I know like this with building supplies and everything, is that reasonable timeline?
We think so, yeah. We're not jumping ahead and saying we're gonna open on
Right.
whatever. We were ready. We've been gearing up where we were even thinking of having like the summer program there. We've backed off that and been sane. But yeah, we think so. At worst, we have talked about what our backup plan is, the space that they'd be vacating. We do need at the high school,
Right.
but we have room at the high school where we could still run our 18 to 22
Okay.
program and
Easy.
be okay.
That's it.
Any other questions?
No, I think it's great. I'm excited.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to allow the superintendent to enter into a lease agreement with the owner of 204 Worcester Street in North Grafton.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? I just want to interject that while I hear the concerns about not being in control of the physical space, that gives me a little bit of pause. But, sometimes solutions like this require bold moves.
Yeah.
And this is a population that I think, they need this. They need this experience and they need this support. And if we can turn this into something great, then I think it's worth the shot, the risk. To have a resource like Chuck Brown in our town with the education experience, like it almost seems like, oh,
Fates
hey,
all
that's kind of a
aligned.
no-brainer, right? But we're so fortunate to have Chuck and to have such a bold team that's ready to take this on. I'm excited, and I'm excited to buy bread. But I'm more excited about free bread, so we need to make that happen.
Next time we'll bring Chuck.
We'll see.
I think he carries bread around
See
all
how
the
my,
time.
see how my
There you go.
evaluation
If you bring
goes.
Chuck, the bread will come.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly.
No,
It is. It's an amazing
This
idea.
is-
I think at the same time, it is a risk. It is, I'm sure it's worth it, but if we can reduce the risk a little bit by maybe extending the lease, if you're confident in the program and that it's,
Yep.
we're confident on our side that this is going to continue for 5 years and we're going to have a partnership and it's worth it to get into that lease for 5 years, and we want to have that assurity, then that security that we have the space, then I think it's worth trying.
But I also think if we do tuition someone in, it's really at no cost to us, so it's kind of worth it no matter what, if it's short-termed or not.
Well, the tuition covers the monthly expenses, but it doesn't cover the upfront
Initial.
costs,
Right.
that's what we would lose if we
Yeah.
had to move.
We'll
But, yeah.
we'll talk about it tomorrow.
And regardless, though, we'd get these 3 years with these three students. So it's almost a whole 18 to 22 cycle, and then we would learn and we would grow, and we have to ask the questions because
Yep.
that's what
That's
we
our
do.
job.
But,
I'd love to have them come in
yeah.
at the end
Oh,
of
yeah,
next
they
year.
definitely
God,
will.
yeah.
I'd bring more bread.
All the bread. I've never had the bread.
You haven't had the bread.
No.
You guys-
It's hard to get sometimes. So we'll be serving our community by making Bread Guy bread more
Available.
accessible.
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah, I
I
think
think it's
a
great.
total win.
Win-win. Any further discussion on the motion? We'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Nice
All right.
job. Thank
Yes.
you.
It is getting on to 8:30. So, Chair's discretion. I'm going to ask Annabelle to give her report. I'm sure she has things to study for, being a busy senior.
Oh, yes.
You want to go ahead and give your report, and then you can skedaddle if you'd like.
Sure. Okay. So prom was last Saturday. Yeah, it went very well. Scholarship night for seniors is this Thursday. The last day for seniors is the 27th. So 13 more school days.
Not that we're counting.
No, not counting at all.
What is that? What's scholarship night?
So for local scholarships, once you apply, you'll be selected to attend scholarship night where you're awarded your scholarships. And I don't think you're supposed to know the scholarship before you receive it or how many scholarships you have received. So you're like family
They reach
goes.
out just, yeah.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
you're getting something because you.
The
They just-
families,
they invite
the
you.
families
Yeah.
made aware.
Yeah, you're invited, so then you know you're getting something. Half day tomorrow, and track meet tomorrow. So
Be waiting.
yeah,
What?
We've been trying to recruit her for track.
yes.
She's fighting us.
She's got 13 days.
And I think Swickle, the tennis team had their Swickle tournament.
Yeah.
And they did very well. I believe we had I wrote down the girls individual champions, boys individual champions, boys double individual champs, and runner-ups. So we did very well for that. And that's all I have.
Gators. Jen.
Do we have things planned for Senior Week, or are there events that are in place?
Yeah, so Bon Voyage has that whole night dedicated to the seniors. That's following graduation from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. And then there's a whole bunch of athletic awards night, senior night, NHS awards night, student council awards. There's a lot of dates.
There's a
coming
trip
up.
to Connecticut.
Yep, the trip, the
Oh,
class
bounce
trip
one.
to Connecticut.
I'm glad that's all coming back, so. And I do know that they are looking for volunteers for
Yeah,
Bon Voyage, so if anyone's available, especially from until 5 a.m.,
Mhm.
I know they're looking for that time slot. But it is a Thursday, so be aware.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Phenomenal.
Thank you, Annabelle. How many more days?
13.
But you have one more meeting with us.
That's right.
Yes,
One
one more
more.
meeting.
You're welcome to stay with us over the summer.
Yeah, well, she's welcome to stay the rest of the evening, but I wanted to make sure before we get into this,
Goodbye.
I didn't forget to let her know.
Did you already tell us where you're going, or
Yeah, I'm going to the University of South Carolina.
congrats?
Thank you.
Majoring in,
Fun.
Biology.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. Where do you want to be? Do you know?
I'm not sure yet. I have an internship this summer that I'm
With what?
hoping. It's called the Reagan Institute. It's partnered with MIT, Harvard, and Mass General Health. So I'll be working in a lab from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, all summer long.
We'll see
That's
if you-
amazing.
We'll see if you like that.
Yes.
That's
At least it's
awesome.
temperature control.
Commuting into Boston every morning.
Oh,
Yes.
Adulting
Are you going
right
to take the
away.
train?
I'm not sure.
Are you
yet.
going to Cambridge? Where are you going? Boston?
Yeah, you don't want to take a train if you're going to Cambridge.
No. Oh, wow. Okay, audiobooks,
you'll have to let us
see
know
how
how
it
that
goes.
goes. We want to hear from you.
Yes. Ooh,
podcasts.
For many years. That's good luck.
Yeah.
At least it's in the summer. The traffic
Yeah,
will be
traffic's
down
better.
a little bit.
Good music, good podcasts, good books.
Sounds like a great opportunity, though.
Yeah, it's a wonderful. I'm very thankful.
Very worth it.
Yeah, you're amazing.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you next time. All right.
All right. So as you know, this year we had a ADA assessment for the district. Tonight, I'm just going to review very briefly the draft that we have received. We have not received the finalized report, but essentially the guts of it we have in hand. These are the central themes. There were a few big projects. For the most part, every school had some version of what's before you. A lot of things that need to be, moved, modified, et cetera, in order to become compliant. The way the draft is set up, again, we haven't seen the entire report, but it's broken down by school. Each school is summed up with an overview of the building, the history, the makeup of the actual physical building, and that is followed by a long list of, this was at the middle school, different issues that were cited, what the actual fix is, and the approximate cost from KMA of what they assume that cost is. So both these pages are just examples from the middle school. The cost estimate totals come out to be 2.4 million, and while that seems like a lot, it gets worse. I've met with Tony LeMay, who one of his main jobs is to look at cost estimates, work with contractors on projects just like this, and he's been doing it for a long time. He thinks that consistently they are super low in their estimates. In general sense, maybe he says tack on 40 to 50% increase. So we're looking at, to get everything done over the coming years, he thinks conservatively about $6 million instead of 2.4.
Can you pause 1 second
Of course.
and say that again when Laura sits down?
Sure.
Because it's pretty important and I want her to hear it.
Yep.
Sorry.
No, no,
So-
no. I just
nope,
wanna make
so,
sure you know what's going on.
I don't-
I heard the
Okay,
giant
so
number.
I don't know if you've seen
Yeah.
the rough draft or
Yeah.
the draft, but long list of small and large projects that need to be done at every building. They provide cost estimates and totals. So far, what we've seen in the draft, I like the makeup, I like the photos. It's easy to identify what needs to be done. When I met with Tony LeMay to review it, we thought that they were short. It was like 40 to 50% in terms of cost. So with everything in the report, Tony's first look was it would be about $6 million
Okay.
instead of the 2.4. So our next steps, what we're working on now is to assess those cost estimates. And that's going to take a while. It's a long list, but we're working on that. At the same time that we're looking at the cost estimates and bringing contractors in to give us actual estimates on the bigger projects, we're working to prioritize the list that we have. We're basically setting up two different ways. One is highest priority down to lowest priority, and the other is going to be set up in terms of low cost to high cost. And we're going to utilize those lists with whatever funds that we have remaining in capital, and anything that we can do this summer, we want to do. Obviously, the way that the budget cycle is set up, we don't have money set aside to dedicate to ADA. One example, we're going to be doing a ton of work in the middle school auditorium this summer. So if we're already, in a very positive way, tearing that auditorium up, this would obviously be the ideal time, if we can make it work, to do some of the projects that would, if delayed, would cause us to rip up the new work. So that's kind of a positive. We don't really have money for it, but the flip side, we do have more work going on this summer than any summer we've probably had in the history of Grafton Public Schools, is my guess, but certainly in the last 12 years. So as we do that work, we're going to try to hit as many of these things as we can. I've got a meeting set up with Evan. I've already talked about the ADA assessment, all of this work after we prioritize it and get new, updated, localized assessments will be inserted into our capital plan and in turn the capital plan of the town. And I don't have a timeline. We've been pushing, Anita's been pushing really hard on getting them, KMA, to give us that finalized draft. It's kind of driving us crazy. You may recall at the very end of the process, they put out a survey to parents in the community about capital or ADA needs. I'm assuming they're not going to shed light on things that aren't already in their report, but they heard back from, I think, 300 people, and they have to process that, however they do that, and put it into the report. Once I have that information, obviously, I will share on the website. I'll put it out in a newsletter. We'll be very, very transparent with the full report.
I don't usually go first, but I'm dying to find out the answer to this question. When it comes to prioritizing, in terms of the summer, how likely is it that you'll use current students and knowing what buildings they'll be in and what, you know what I'm trying to get at here?
Yeah.
Instead of saying like this handrail, blah, blah, blah. Well, if there's no student in that school that benefits from fixing that handrail, can we put that off in favor of something that would directly benefit?
Yeah, we would do that. I'd like
Okay.
to think that, for the most part, that has been done,
Okay,
like on an ongoing basis. This isn't like, oh my gosh, we have ADA compliance needs. That doesn't, we have 600,000 square feet in old buildings.
Yeah.
None of us are surprised by that. So we have tailored the work that we've been able to do around compliance, and we've always chipped away at it. This isn't like we haven't been working on this. but those schools who have the student in the wheelchair, we've already gone that extra mile to make sure that's highly accessible. But in a general sense, yes, that's in part how we'll prioritize.
NGES just seems shockingly high.
Have you been there? It's just.
I
an
haven't been
old-
there in a long, long time.
Just a really old.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised about the high school.
Yeah.
That was the one.
I'm surprised the middle
that
school
sur-
wasn't higher.
That
But I'm
surprised
I'm
me.
surprised
Yeah.
middle school isn't
Yeah.
higher.
And Millbury Street
Yeah.
too, which I know they're getting old, but they're not like the years old of like NGES, you know, and that I guess I was a little disappointed. It has nothing to do with, but I'm.
A lot of the things at
I'm sorry, I'm so out of
NGS, for
order.
example,
No,
you'll
it's
see,
fine.
is it was built in 1974. They have ramps. They're different, but the slope
Right.
doesn't now match up with the requirement.
Right.
So it's not like a temporary ramp. It's a big project. So
Yeah.
Oh, look how math.
that cost is what drives that 731.
Yeah.
I was actually going to ask when he had the list of things, and slope was one of them. I was like, y equals mx plus b. Did they look at anything outside?
Oh,
I
yeah.
see parking lot spaces, but like
Yep.
slope of the hill or something like that, like any of that sort of thing?
Not hills, but access to things. For
Right,
example,
okay.
and this doesn't surprise us, the playground at North Street Elementary School. If you've been there, it's down towards the bottom of a hill. We just don't have great access. That's one of the more significant projects. Outside, that's probably our biggest.
We were kind of free-forming it, which is totally fine. But does anybody have any what?
I said sorry.
No, it's totally fine. That's fine. I hate the calling on people. We're all adults, right? As long as we're not interrupting each other. Did anybody have any questions? It's a shockingly large number. Oh, you still have your hand up.
I
I'm sorry.
didn't. I know. I didn't have a question. I feel. I'm glad we got this done.
Yeah.
I think it's obviously very important. I feel better when I was because I was trying to process this, and I was like, what are we gonna do? I feel better knowing the way our capital process is working now,
Yeah.
our partnership with the TA, our partnership with the select board. I feel like we're in a good position to move forward and chip away. And that's all and obviously, as you said, and I feel like we should stress it, is we're meeting the students' needs that are currently in the building.
Yeah.
Buildings, and that's important. And I'm sure I hate when people say this, but I'm going to say it. Perhaps there's some grants we can look into.
Yeah, there definitely are. I was going to bring that up. There are.
Yeah.
The unfortunate reality is almost every district, if
Yeah.
not every
I'm
district,
sure they all
is
do.
dealing with the exact same problem. In many, many, many districts, the majority would basically kill for that number, even the 6 million, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
So-
That's what happens with buildings. We build schools and they last for years and years, and yeah. Okay, I'll stop.
No, it's fine. I was going to ask about Mass Corps, and because you mentioned the auditorium, and I didn't know I don't really have a full understanding of what types of work that they do, and if they would be able to fit in and
Yeah,
the
I'll have to
auditorium stuff on
think
top
about
of what they're
that.
already doing. That could save us a little bit.
We could definitely look. I can't think of anything. Anita's much more of an expert with MassCore, and we just happen to have some projects that fell right into their wheelhouse, one of them being renovations of auditorium seating. That's about as perfect as you can get.
Yeah.
They make furniture, they make wall mats. We are getting new wall mats that they're going to produce at the middle school gym. I'll talk about it with Anita tomorrow when I talk to her about the lease.
Okay.
So nothing jumps out, but it's a good idea.
Well, thank you for
Yeah.
getting this done finally.
Welcome.
I know it's been frustrating just trying to get this thing from them.
Yep. So I will share the finalized report when it comes in, and I'll probably have some kind of cover letter that also explains that we are going to assess localized costs and get estimates.
All right.
100%.
Did you, all right, so it's not on the agenda, but did you, I apologize, I missed this too. You don't, we talked about you doing a superintendent's report and then.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't put it on the agenda. Do you need a minute to, because we could do your evaluation first if you'd like.
I'll be quick.
Okay.
I think, if I can get this thing to.
It's been a busy week, I apologize to the committee.
It's okay.
My one job.
1 second.
It's not easy.
It was just this whole week got away from me.
It's not easy.
Okay, I just had a
People think
few slides, and some of them we already hit on.
What?
I just saw.
Yeah, you got a little sneak preview, did you?
Okay. Just obviously last night at town meeting, we had the $135,000 in CPC funds were approved for use for a new South Grafton Elementary School playground. That's absolutely fantastic. Wanted to thank the town citizens for their support. Grafton Disabilities Commission, Roger Trahan in particular, was fantastic when we did look at grants for the past 2 years. A lot of work went into that. And the CPC for their support in vetting the project and putting it forward. So I let the South Grafton Elementary School staff and Doreen know that we're not going to name this lousy playground after her. She's going to get a new playground, and she was excited.
If I can just add on real quick, I'd
course.
also like to thank the CPAC. They sent a letter of
Oh, yeah, right.
support to the
Nope,
CPC
I'm
and
glad you
helped
did
kind of
that.
tip them over. So we thank
yeah.
them for their support as well.
100%, thank you. We touched on the junior-senior prom, great success. I wanted just to touch on Best Buddies Walk. This past Sunday, I think it was, a group of students, our Best Buddies program is just awesome, but these students participated in a fundraising event and an awareness event for Best Buddies, so many thanks to them. And then COVID.
Can you go back real quick 1 minute?
Yep, of course.
Sorry. Because it's not in the drive, I just want to steal that. Thank you very much.
You got
Okay,
it.
COVID.
All right, so COVID. So as you know, Worcester County has now moved into the high rate of community spread. I pulled this off, I think it was the New York Times site. It showed where we are. So we are just, what we've experienced in Grafton mirrors what's before you there. I pulled off the dashboard, the numbers, so we're seeing that uptick. And that's through the reporting date. Tomorrow it closes for the week, and then I report those numbers to the state. So we're 61 as of tonight. And, well, that obviously that is high, and that's concerning. If I showed the next group of dates, there was a week we had 278.
Yeah.
Like, I blocked it out of my mind. When I saw it, I was like, wow. But it obviously is still concerning. Some districts have had some really significant increases in cases. Arlington, I think it was Cambridge, one other, went up by 150 to 200 in a week. They did communicate out that masks were recommended and encouraged. As far as I know, no district in the state as of yet has moved back to any kind of mandate. So we could certainly, I'll take direction from you as to how we want to go forward, but I was holding off on communicating anything out until this group had a discussion. There has been no new guidance from DESE. I don't see anything right now kind of behind the scenes that would lead me to believe that there's any kind of guidance that's going to be coming out other than your kind of standard, probably encouragement of masks, ventilation, et cetera. I did over the weekend reach out to AA Transportation. I had them resume the opening of the windows on the buses. As you know, we have air purifiers in all of our educational spaces, and those are up and running. In many cases, teachers or staff have never stopped using them. And then obviously with the good weather, it's very conducive to opening up windows in classrooms where that is available. And yep, that's all I have. So I'm basically looking for any feedback, if you have any, about how we want to proceed.
Laura?
Well, I will say it. I was going to actually suggest just a recommendation. I know we really can't go back to, or we probably don't have the appetite to go back. But here's the reality of it is that it's the end of the year and there's a lot of super fun things coming up. There are field trips, there are graduation. It would just be a darn shame to have to miss it because you were homesick. So I would love at least a recommendation that perhaps we encourage people to wear masks. It's going down because of the heat and people are getting complacent. I mean, I'm not wearing a mask tonight. I thought about it because I knew about the numbers, but you kind of go back and forth. I would love to see that. I don't know if we're at the place where so I'll stop. But that is my thoughts. It's just stressful because you're looking forward to this thing all year and then you get sick and you got to miss it and you have your games. And I mean, we listened to Annabelle talking about everything going on. Yep. You could maybe prevent it by wearing a mask.
Yeah, I'll echo that. There's no harm in making a recommendation and making sure that people know about this trend and the increased numbers and the risk. And I know some kids who didn't get to go to their prom because they tested positive. That's very sad. And I'd hate for them to miss out on other things as well. I'm wearing a mask tonight because I'm afraid I might be getting a cold. So even then, I'm thinking of wearing one to protect all of you just in case. And so, yeah, I don't see anything wrong in a recommendation and an ask. And I'm not ready to change it to a mandate at this point. But I think we've set things up so that if it does get that bad, we can do that. And I think, we should look to that. But I think I agree. I'd hate for kids to miss out on things and just, I want them to have that information so that they can make that decision and take that precaution. We had at a company event last week, we had an all company meeting and there was a case of COVID there that was announced on the second day of the meeting. And so everybody put their masks on just in case. And I haven't heard of anybody else get it. It kept contained. But I think that it'd be a good idea for those people who.
Sometimes people need permission. They need to hear it again. Like, okay, it's okay. I'm getting permission to put this back on.
Yeah, because you know what? Because even tonight I felt like wearing this. I felt like, what are people gonna think? Is it gonna be strange that I'm wearing one? I know, I think I saw one person in the audience wearing it, and I thought, oh, do I have to explain myself? Should I say why I'm wearing the mask? Should I make sure that people know it's just a precaution? I don't have COVID, but they shouldn't have to do that. There shouldn't be a stigma, and if we do make that recommendation, I agree with you. It helps relieve that for people who want to.
Yeah.
I'm worried about. Sorry, I started talking before.
Go ahead.
I'm worried about staffing. I mean, all the other things everybody said about kids missing things. I'm worried about graduation. Mm-hmm. I'm worried about being able to staff the buildings if the numbers go up. And I know we have more subs now. We've got, maybe it's college kids. Is that what's happening? Yay, college kids. So I know we have more subs, but we also have a lot of teachers going out. So I know you have to balance that. But if it, I would really love it if everybody would wear a mask. That's what I would very much like. I would like to know that we're going to be able to have graduation, that we're all going to be able to be there together and celebrate these kids and their achievements. But that and staffing the buildings for the month of June are the topmost things on my mind. So I agree. I think a nice letter from Dr. Cummings to the community, reminding everybody that, the schools are a safe place to wear a mask. No one's going to be harassed or judged. I feel a little bad because I've been sitting here coughing.
Yeah.
I didn't wear a mask.
Keep moving.
I do not have COVID. I've been testing every day. My throat's just been really dry, and I don't know what's going on other than this water.
A lot of allergies.
Weather,
too.
allergies, yeah, it could be a lot of things.
I'm not allergic to anything.
Sure.
Maybe it's me.
I know.
You could develop them.
Yeah,
I know.
I had somebody ask me, I'm sorry that this whole mask thing has
Devised.
demise and has taken a toll on all of us. I have lots to say, but I won't. But I feel like I have to always do what I think is best.
Yep.
And that's my recommendation.
That's our job.
It is.
Yeah.
And
Can I just ask
Go
a
for it.
question about, so the 61 students that you said have increased like this week,
Well, that includes staff too.
okay, students and staff, are those self-reported? When because schools are continuing to receive the test kits,
Yeah.
are students still self-reporting on
Oh, yeah.
Tuesday?
It could really be any time. Now, I mean, students, they test all the time. I mean, now that the tests are so easy, I had 2 track kids today. They were totally fine at track, doing great. They went home and they hadn't tested for a few days, and for whatever, they were in close contact with somebody and they tested, and they were positive. So, I think it's just a more commonplace. A lot of people do it on Tuesday, but I'm hearing about testing all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm wondering how many,
Are-
when you start to see the trend,
Yeah.
and you see more positive results, how many more have not
That's why I was just
gotten
kinda
the results?
wondering.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what I was
sure.
kinda
It
wondering.
definitely
It
could
may be
happen.
a
Yeah,
sleeper.
that hasn't changed.
That's
I
what I was
know at the high
wondering.
school, they sent tests home with the kids on Friday before prom.
Yeah,
But if any of the kids that are on internships, they weren't there, they didn't get one, and,
but they had to show the results for prom, right? So they had to.
No.
think
No,
so.
they didn't. They were just. Oh, okay.
No.
I
No,
thought they
no,
had
it's
to
all
show
honor
them.
system.
we haven't made
Kudos
it.
to those who admitted it
I
and
agree.
stayed home. That's,
Oh, yeah, kids have been great about it.
that's
I have to-
amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
And they wear their mask too.
That's
A
for
lot
them,
of the
yeah.
Yeah,
the students,
the
even
kids-
getting out of their car.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
every day.
School, they were
High
in
school
masks.
too. We were at North Grafton for a long time today. I mean, we saw some kids with the masks in their mouth, but
Yeah, no.
we did
That's
cite
not
that
gonna
it
help.
wasn't
Was that
the
the
most
middle
helpful thing.
I was
That
at the
just
middle
The
school
germs and then stick it in your mouth. Okay.
last week.
But
I mean, there's a lot that wear them.
Some
Yeah.
staff, kids, they
It's-
don't.
Look, it's going to be the same. A letter is going to, but
And what do they
it
do at
can't
home?
hurt.
What do they do on the weekend? What do they do at
Right.
the sleepover?
I've gotten questions from a few parents asking, when are we gonna put the masks back on? And my response is, anytime you want.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good answer.
My kids, they're wearing their masks this week. My youngest hasn't stopped. She wears her mask every day. It's just what makes her feel comfortable.
Yeah, my third hasn't stopped.
same. My kids haven't stopped.
The rest of
All right.
As I cough some more. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's just, it's allergies, everyone. There you go. Thank you, Jay. Do you have any idea when that's gonna go out?
Get it.
Wanna do that by the end of the week?
Probably tomorrow.
Tomorrow? All right, cool.
Like I
Latest
told you, like
Thursday.
for almost 2 weeks.
What?
I said, I've had a cold. It's not COVID. I've tested every single day for almost 2 weeks.
Mine lasted for.
I'm
Yeah.
running out of tests, so if anybody wants to donate to the
I
Amy
get them at
Mark
work, so
test. That's good.
yeah, they pass.
Yeah,
'cause
we
have
get
to
'em at
test every
work,
week.
so.
Yeah, I signed up at work.
All right. So, our favorite thing.
Yeah.
After the calendar.
This is my favorite thing.
So everybody has a copy of the compilation of the superintendent, I'm blanking, evaluation.
Evaluation.
Thank you. My memory of how we usually do this was apparently wrong. I thought I would be choosing comments that go in, but they're actually all in here. So everybody's voice is in here for every
you can just
question.
choose what you want to read.
Oh, we choose what we want to read.
Or
Well, I
how
didn't
you
do
want to
that.
read. Yeah.
And sometimes there has been a summary in the past.
They changed. It was
They
different.
changed it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And there is no longer an overall rating.
Yeah, I noticed that.
That's because an overall rating, I mean, what does that tell you? The individual standard ratings are much more informative and helpful to Jay. I mean, at least in my mind, an evaluation is designed to tell you what you're doing well, what you could improve upon, what you might want to reach, change some of your goals for next year. Overall, this is a very good review. I think we can go through each standard, and maybe if one person wants to read their favorite comment from the section, even if it's not yours, we can do it that way.
You can read it.
Yeah.
Or I can read, so I can start coughing. Great. So the first standard is instructional leadership. Mostly exemplaries and one proficient. Let's see. Here we go. All right, I will read my favorite. Jay continues to lead by example, stepping in when needed to provide support to teachers, creating new opportunities for admin, and working to assess what students need after the pandemic. I appreciate that he is looking at what worked during the pandemic and bringing these practices over to GPS, quote, post-pandemic, end quote. We are very fortunate to have Jay at the helm during one of the most challenging years ever. It is important to have a seasoned professional who has built trust with the community and the staff and is willing to make the difficult decisions as well as change direction when needed. I thought that was very accurate. All the different hats that you wear on a daily basis, it's mind-blowing. Every time I turn around, if you're not coaching something, you're directing traffic or you're off-site at a meeting, and it's just amazing the amount of work you get done in a day. And you never say no when I ask you for something else. It's always my pleasure. Did anybody else want to read a comment from that section? This is a public document, by the way. It will be available for everyone to read eventually. And Jay, true to form, Jay is frantically taking notes on his own evaluation. I'll move on to the next standard unless anybody has anything. Okay. 1B, instruction. Ensuring instructional practices in all settings reflect high expectations regarding content and quality of effort and work, etc. Mostly proficients and an exemplary here. I think, Jay, you said in your self-evaluation you felt proficient was the appropriate rating on that one. I'm sure that influenced some of us. Now I'm going to cough at Laura. Sorry, Laura. I did covered.
I'm being dramatic.
Do you want
This
to
is going to be the worst meeting to watch ever. Okay. This year we have put several key positions in place that will help move the district forward, including math literacy coordinators. GHS has moved forward with a variety of new courses and initiatives for students. I look forward to seeing that impact. I'd like to learn more about what GMS is doing to help expand learning opportunities and accommodate all learners. The movement to a co-principalship at NSS shows the right kind of leadership. Jay is thinking ahead for the district and giving an administrator an opportunity to grow so that we can help keep key team members within the district. I appreciate Jay's creativity to best use our district's assets. I 100% agree. I'm going to end up reading this whole thing, aren't I?
Do you want me to read
I
something?
can
Go
read
ahead.
We don't need to.
Jay's like, I can't handle all of these good things. I know, it's weird, isn't it?
Only because I had what you had, and it did take a toll on my voice after a while.
There you go.
Let's let Jen do it since.
Yeah, Jen, why don't you do the next one?
What are we doing next?
Standard 2, management operations, 2A.
Operations, management operations, mostly proficient, one exemplary. Just looking through them.
Oh, you get long ones.
I know. All right, Dr. Cummings has done an excellent job in taking care of the schools. He has taken many steps to ensuring the safety of our buildings and improving the quality of them. The use of ARPA funding and other grants to fund new HVAC system to our middle school will be beneficial to not only the students who currently attend the school, but to hundreds of other students to come in the future. Grafton does well the recruitment of students who take advantage of school choice opportunities. This allows for additional funds that help fund much-needed upgrades to our buildings. Equity audits are currently taking place at the high school will only ensure our students are safe, feel cared for, and a private environment that is welcoming for all. And they pretty much all, most of it has to do with the HVAC. And Shrewsbury Youth Family Services.
2B, human resources management. Mostly proficients and an exemplary. We've had a lot of changes in this area this year. In spite of a challenging year in the job market, Dr. Cummings and his team were able to continually fill in critical roles within the schools. His outside-the-box thinking led him to find creative ways to fill in the gaps, such as utilizing contracting agencies for critical roles such as nursing and instructional support staff. Dr. Cummings and his team have also tirelessly worked on improving the professional development of their staff, including the early stages of development for new teachers, such as an induction program. Dr. Cummings made the choice to utilize time allotted to professional development as a way to provide his teachers with a much-needed respite from 2 years of hectic pandemic teaching. And shout out to Kristen, who was a huge part of that as well. It is a little odd that we evaluate Jay on your job as well, but make him look good. That's your job, right? Standard 3, family and community engagement. 3C, family communication. 3 exemplary, 2 proficient.
I can read one.
You want me to read one?
You want to read one?
I can read one.
All right, go ahead.
Dr. Cummings, along with the Grafton Public Schools, has relied on communication with parents and stakeholders to continue supporting students. The use of technology and social media has opened up new opportunities for communication, including creating a Facebook page and the use of virtual meetings to ensure ample opportunities for parent-teacher interaction. These effective use of communication has increased parent involvement in the schools and opened up lines of communication for all.
Great. Standard 4, professional culture. For the cultural proficiency, proficients, and a needs improvement. A rating of needs improvement is no way negative feedback for Dr. Cummings. Massachusetts as a whole is currently working toward improving ways to provide culturally proficient and inclusive practices. The ongoing efforts of the district as a whole, including the DEI audit currently in place at the high school and subsequently in other schools, will guide culturally responsive practices in the future. We've definitely made some great strides in that area this year, things that I didn't think we would be discussing this year because of coming out of COVID were kind of top of mind this year, which was great. Student learning goal number 1, increase coordination and effectiveness of student services.
I can read again.
Go ahead.
Excellent progress was made towards the goal of increasing coordination and effectiveness of student services this year. I am happy to see the further development of the senior internship program. I look forward to seeing how well the new stipend positions of adjustment councils coordinators has worked.
Me too. I'm also glad G-term is back. I don't know if we'll probably mention that next time, but.
Definitely.
Student goal number 2 is strengthen our collective ability to meet the needs of all students.
I can read it again.
Go ahead.
Through various partnerships, including that with Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services and the pursuit of an equity assessment, the district has further strengthened its ability to meet students' needs. I'm happy to see the vaping initiatives being pursued as well. I look forward to seeing what more can be done to address the needs and challenges of that our students face, especially as a result of stress and anxiety in the coming year.
And professional practice goal, improve communication with school department budgetary needs for fiscal year 23 and beyond.
I'll do this.
Go.
The new budget process and timeline were certainly a challenge this year, but the newfound collaboration between Dr. Cummings and our new town administrator will no doubt yield enormous dividends in the future. I am personally very happy to see that working relationship bloom and look forward to watching all the good that come out of joining together the town side and the school side when it comes to budgeting. The fiscal year 23 budget was clearly communicated, presented well, and continues to be transparent as a process and as a physical document. We do need to vote.
And there you have it. Thank you. Do you have any questions for us, Jay?
I don't, just thank you for all the feedback. I look forward to reading it. I'm excited about working with all of you to do even better next year. I wanted to thank all of you, the leadership staff, our teachers, our staff in general for all they do. There's, as I've said a million times, there's almost nothing that I do independently. If I did, I'd be almost entirely unsatisfactory if it wasn't for Kristen. So thank you, Kristen. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I will, if there's no further discussion on this, I will take a motion to accept or approve, I guess it's approve the superintendent evaluation.
Make a motion to accept the superintendent evaluation for 21-22.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Carries. Great. I'm actually running ahead. No, we're not. We're way behind.
It's okay.
All right. Future agenda, schedule planning. No changes to the schedule. from our last meeting that I remember. So next meeting, you will have Kevin Carney come in and do the internship program, the GHS handbook. We'll get a report on the equity audit. We will reorganize post-election. So this is my last meeting as chair. And it's been my honor, by the way, and my privilege. You guys have been great to work with. And
Amy, you've done a great job in
no
a,
matter
in
what
a
happens, it's been
terrific,
fun.
you've done a great job in a challenging year. People often, the chair takes a lot, and it's not always necessary because your job, as you said, is setting the agenda, and people, you take the good, you take the bad. So thank you for leading us and doing an amazing job. Appreciate you.
And as I discovered, there's actually no power in being
There's no
being the
power.
school committee chair. Just in case you're wondering,
No.
there's no
People
power.
think there is. There's no
Yeah,
power.
there's no power.
No
It's all
power.
work, but I've been happy to do the work. It's given me, it's been eye-opening. I know way more about this district than I did before, and I'm grateful for that. So,
You could have brought a gavel if you wanted.
I have a gavel.
She did.
I don't see it.
I didn't bring it tonight because I knew I wouldn't need it. Because you're not unruly.
Yeah.
Amy, can I add one thing?
Yeah.
Kristen reminded me, as she always does. I forgot in my update, I wanted just to mention that last week was Teacher Appreciation Week. I wanted to thank all the PTGs, all the parents. Everybody was incredibly generous and kind and thoughtful, and that was awesome. Tomorrow is Nurse Appreciation Day as well.
Well, we love our nurses.
We do.
Yeah.
That's great.
So,
Thank you.
thank
for
you.
the
Thank you.
reminder. You're good.
I had something to add to the agenda. I don't know if you wanted me to do it in my report, but I feel like it's more of an agenda add. We're there, right?
Sure. Do you want to, do you want to do the minutes and? We can do it under member reports. What do we do?
Future agenda. Are we at future agenda?
Yeah, we're on future agenda. Yes, future agenda.
So I had
yes.
something to add to the
Okay,
future
to the
agenda.
Future agenda. I'm sorry. I
It-
apologize.
well,
I thought you
could-
meant to add this agenda.
No.
Okay, go.
For future agenda, I mean, I don't want to talk about it too much because it's an agenda item, but I'd like to get it on the agenda for next week. So Amy, you're still going to set the agenda
Yes.
for next time. So it came to our attention, actually it came to my attention from a constituent, and then I took a look at it and I wanted to present it 'cause it's something that I feel strongly about. It's through MASC. So as you know, MASC is an advocacy group, and they have at the conference, they put together things that they want to advocate for, or resolutions, and we voted on the resolutions. So where we can submit like a citizen's petition, put it that way. It has to come from 5 school committees and at least 2 districts. We're District 4. And this came from somebody else in District 4, a member of the Worcester School Committee, who wanted to put together a resolution. And see, now I'm kind of talking about it, but we'll talk about it next time. But it's basically, it's putting together that we want to push the state to recognize, to join with other states in the passage of so-called sanctuary laws to ensure that transgender children and their families have the power of enjoying in safety and tranquility their natural rights and blessings of life as guaranteed by the Constitution of the Commonwealth. So we can talk about it next time. I will provide everybody with a draft copy of the resolution, but I'd like us to at least consider endorsing that and signing on as a school committee. And we can talk about it more
I could
next
add
time.
that, I could add that to the agenda, and I believe there's a deadline on that, correct, that we'd have to make a decision by June 1st.
Yeah, so we'd have to.
So it would be at that
We'd have to
meeting
do
we
it
would
next
make that
meeting, but
decision.
we need to talk about it, get it on the agenda, and I don't know a ton about it, so I'll try to find out as much as I can,
Yep.
but we'll put it in the packet, and if you can read it in advance and let me know if you have any questions, I can try to get the answers, because I didn't write it, I'm just passing it along.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
I forgot about that. All right. Any other future agenda items? We're good through, we could add a little bit more on the 14th. Just a reminder for the committee, graduation is the 2nd. And we do have a meeting Is it the 24th, Jay, that we have a meeting with the students?
Correct. Yep,
Okay.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock?
Yep.
Whoever can come, great. Over the summer, we need to figure out what we're gonna do about student involvement, whether we're gonna change the way we do reps or have this committee that we're required by law to have and what that's gonna look like. Because they're not gonna be able to elect people now. It's too close to the end of the school year. So I think if we have to have them elected, and I have a question into Tracy Novick on that. She's checking. The way that the law is laid out specifically says that they have to be elected, but I seriously don't think schools are doing it that way, and I kind of want to know how much leeway we have there. We shouldn't have any because it's the letter of the law.
I wonder if you can speak, because I don't know if they've done student council voting already for next year, so if it can be thrown in part of the elections. I'm not sure, but
It's possible. I don't know when that is. Is that in the fall?
Yeah, but I'd love to reach kids outside of student council.
I agree.
no, I just meant run the election at the same time.
Oh, gotcha. I mean, it'd be nice. It would be nice for everybody who wants to participate. Maybe they could elect officers.
Right.
But I wouldn't want to turn anybody away
I
who
agree.
wants to
Anybody who wants
advise us. I don't know.
We'll talk about that over the summer sometime,
Yeah.
maybe later in June, I think.
Why don't they have time though? Why are we saying they don't have time?
I'm sorry?
Why are we saying that they don't have time to?
Between
Like
now and the
someone-
end of the school year,
Yeah, why don't they have time?
because there's lots going on, and the 8th graders aren't even in the high school yet,
Mm-hmm.
so it would be difficult for them to hold an election.
I thought they were just picking one person to replace the.
No.
So are we kicking?
No, these two positions are appointed, they're selected
Right.
by the principal.
I know that, yeah.
Okay, and then the student group, there's no definition as to the size of it,
Right, okay.
so we have to figure out what we want, and then the students can vote, I guess is what I'm thinking. But it's a bigger discussion.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah. Add that on for. All right, thank you. Approval of minutes, we have one set of minutes.
Make a motion, sorry. I make a motion to approve the minutes from April 26, 2022 as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? Motion carries 4-1-0. I'm sorry, 4-0-1. Okay. Financial report. We do not have a warrant. Budget update is in the packet. Jay, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to speak to?
No, we're off by $114,000 and that, $40+ million budget, that's great. So we're tracking to be, we should have more than enough money to finish out the FY22 school year.
Any questions for Jay? You can always email Jay too if you have questions anytime.
And just to give an update, what was throwing us off, if we looked back in past months where that gap was significantly larger, we had a lot of agency employees, and right now I think we're down to almost none, which is fantastic. But that was crushing us.
All right. All right, thank you for the update. Policy, we have no policy.
No policy.
Member reports. Anybody have a member report?
I do.
You do.
Did I? All right, I have
Okay.
two things. One, just a reminder that the ARPA open house or a question and answer session is tomorrow night at 7 at the library. We invite everybody to come and give their feedback about what they'd like to see our remaining ARPA funds spent on. You also should have received information about a survey. If you could fill out the survey, we'd appreciate it. This is your chance to speak and be heard. And we'd love to see you at our beautiful library tomorrow at 7 o'clock. And then,
Isn't it Thursday?
nope, It's tomorrow.
It is? Oh, I had it as Thursday.
Well, it is
Glad I
May
asked.
11th, which is tomorrow at 7
Excellent.
o'clock. Right? Now I'm doubting myself.
I think you're right.
I probably wrote it down wrong.
You already told me you couldn't go.
Yeah, because it conflicted. Oh. Yeah, never mind. I did have it right.
Okay.
I still can't go. Sorry.
That's okay, because if you can still, and you can always email the chair, or you can always email Evan, you can email myself, you can email Peter Carlson. And maybe while I'm on that, if you need to be heard, you can always reach out to all of us. We all have emails. We are all willing to meet with you and speak with you at any time. And I think we're very happy to do so. If you can't attend a meeting, that's okay. You can reach out. Our school email addresses are on the page. And I think I speak for everybody, but we are always happy. I've had multiple coffees and waters, because I don't drink coffee, with people over the years to hear your concerns. You can always call, email, write. On that note, we are losing one of our members tonight to retirement.
Yeah. Not full-time retirement, just from here.
Jennifer Conley. I remember 7 years ago, you came before us as an appointment, much like Graciela, and you said, I am not an emotional thinker. And you have proven that over and over again. You come here with well thought out facts, statements. You have made a difference in so many students' lives. You've been a remarkable asset on this committee. Personally, you've been a great sounding board for me. What maybe people don't know is I disagree with Jennifer Conley maybe about 80% of the time. But we have always walked out of here as friends, as colleagues, as partners. I think you've been a tremendous asset, bringing your experience as a Grafton parent, as an educator, to us, and you are going to be missed. I appreciate you so much, and your well-earned retirement. We've been through it, and you've made a difference. So, thank you.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Well, thank you. Well, you're the one that helped me, one, be interested, but also to learn from. Like, we had to learn, I mean, we're fairly new, and, to learn from everyone, and then Dr. Cummings for basically, like, trying to at least introduce, like, how this is supposed to be. But I love doing this for many years. Just with my job now, it's just really, can't give 100% to everything. And so this is the one that I'm deciding I'm done. So, but I appreciate it. But there's a lot of things that I've learned from here as a school committee member that I have brought now into my own teaching, which I think has been fantastic to kind of look at it from a different lens and learn from it and think of it differently. So, there's a lot that I took from it. So thank you to everyone.
We have a gift. You don't have to open it on air. But
Open the executive session.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna stop because I'm gonna
I
cry.
wanted to say a few words. Jen, you and I go back a fair ways, being from Southie.
Yes.
We were on the PTO together when I was a young, naive, wide-eyed mother who didn't know anything about anything.
That's how we all start.
Well, we do. You were a little more experienced than I was when I started, so you've kind of been a bit of a mentor to me all along the way. I know what a fantastic teacher you are, a fantastic mother, and you've been such a great supporter, defender, promoter of our schools, and it's been my honor to serve alongside you, and I'm going to miss you, but I'm happy for you. I know what it's like when life gets really, really complicated and you have to make tough choices.
Yeah.
So I'm sad, but I'm happy. So congratulations on your
Thank you.
retirement.
No, I appreciate it.
I'm sure your kids will enjoy it. Maybe not. I do have a member report.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. That was part of your member report. So last year I went into the 8th grade over Zoom, and I, with Tracy Novick, and we taught the kids about school finance and municipal finance, and it went over like a lead balloon. Part of it was Zoom, and The kids were tired of Zooming, and the topic is, it's a heavy topic, explaining municipal finance to 8th graders. We did our best. This year I decided to do it a little differently, partially because I have an 8th grader, as many of us do. And I wanted to really introduce the kids to municipal government and how it works for them and why it's important to vote every year and not every 4 years. They've just gotten done with, one class has started their civics project already, and I'll get to that in a second. The other classes have just finished the judicial branch. So it was the perfect time. They were about to start that unit of jumping into town government, city government. So I went into the school, and I was a teacher for a whole day. Yes, I was, and I was exhausted. I don't know how teachers do it. I taught 6 sections. Some were double sections of the kids. We talked about voting. I showed them a ballot. We talked about how do you know where you go to vote. I talked about precincts and showed them the map. Had them figure out what precinct they live in so they can tell their parents. We talked a little bit about town meeting and that it's the legislative branch of the government, which I thought was important. And unbeknownst to me, our town moderator, Dawn Anderson, had invited the 8th grade to come to town meeting last night. And she had worked it out that they could get a 100 on a quiz if they came last night to town meeting. And I was so impressed to see so many students there. I like to think I was a small part of that. They were there, they learned a lot, they didn't fall asleep. I did have 3 kids fall asleep on me. That's all right, they're tired. And as part of their civics project, you've started to see some of the emails come in from a few of them. They have to reach out to someone in local government about an issue that means something to them, and they have to kind of do a little research. And the ones that we've gotten so far have been around later start times because, again, they're tired. So I was able to point them to all of the research that we still have from the later start times committee and explain the cost factor. And then I had one from a student that might have gone to everybody about traffic, that we should just have the middle school start later so they could sleep in more and the traffic would be less. And I explained that that's a wonderful idea. But I love hearing from the students. I think it's great that they're engaging with us. The best question that I got when I was in the classroom was, what's the toughest decision you've had to make on school committee? And that one, I had to think about that. Most of them were pretty easy, but that was a really thoughtful question. And I really appreciated the opportunity to go in. I'd like to thank Ms. McShera, Mr. King, and Mr. Mitchell for subjecting all of their students to me for a full class period. And I can't wait to go back and do it again next year. It was so fun. So.
What was your answer?
The most difficult decision that I had to vote on was the hybrid learning. When we were discussing the 1 week versus the 2-day, everybody stay home 2-day, and how districts around us were picking that. And Jake came to us with this other, we didn't really have much to base it on, right? Other than kind of common sense. What's going to be best for the students in terms of continuity? And I do think that our students fared better under that model.
Me too.
I heard from peers in many other districts that kind of asked me, how did you decide on that? I'm like, well, our superintendent brought us that and we talked about it and we decided it made sense. But everybody that I've spoken to in other districts that went the other way wished about halfway through the year they had gone with our strategy.
I don't know anyone else who did that model.
No?
No.
Oh, yeah, a lot of them did. I think
No,
one-
did.
Oh,
Our
do
model.
our model, yeah.
Yeah.
There were a couple
Just made
schools that were
sense.
considering switching mid-year, which I can only imagine based on what happened with the middle school, how well that would have gone over. With childcare and like all of that. And that was hard because, again, we didn't really have much to go on other than, well, hopefully Jay's right. Yeah, no pressure, right? But I think every other decision we've made has been, based in data and fact, and this was just a gut instinct. So, thanks for asking, Jen. Excellent question.
Can I throw an antidote in, which I don't like to do, but it's funny.
Go for it.
So my son, we have an 8th grader, a bunch of us do. I don't often talk about my kids up here, but they had to do in their class, they had to pick an elected official. He picked his father. I'm going to say that. Yeah. Yeah.
So sorry.
Picked his dad. And he said, well, you're not elected.
What?
He said, I said, I've been elected since you were in kindergarten. Oh. I don't really remember. So, picked his dad.
Well, I guess
Never gonna live
I
that
was gonna say, I
down.
guess I know who the favorite child isn't.
No, I don't have favorites, but I know who their favorite parent is.
Well, for the record, I'm sure that my 8th grader did not pick me. Because I had to promise that I would not even so much as look at her when I taught that.
I didn't hear about it from my 8th grader, so she didn't pick me.
Yeah.
I don't know what they had. They got to look it up. And he's like, well, I knew his address and phone number. I'm like, I know.
Oh, to write to?
I don't even think I don't know what they had to do, but he was like, all I know is
That's amazing.
he picked his father.
That's awesome.
And it hurt my feelings a little bit.
Well, I'm sorry. You've been around longer.
That's-
Elected than.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write him a letter.
Sorry.
We do not have any correspondence other than what we got from the students. Because they're minors, I did not want to put that in the packet. I did solve a minor problem where kids who wrote to town officials on the town domain, the replies were getting blocked by the school system.
Oh, yeah.
So I talked to Neil about it. We got that straightened out. So now, if anybody writes to our select board members, like your son, the response won't get kicked back. We do need to have executive session very briefly tonight. I will not keep you very long. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I move that we go into executive session for reasons under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A, to conduct sessions in preparation for salary negotiation with non-union personnel. And to reconvene in open session only in the purposes of adjournment.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
This has to be a roll call vote.
Oh, it does. Thank you very much. Graciela.
Aye.
Liz.
Aye.
Jen.
Jen Connolly, aye. That's what you used to do.
One more time. Laura.
Laura Often, aye.
And I'm an aye. Good night, Grafton.